Chapter 577. As soon as Lu Ping arrived at Jingzha Island from the teleportation array, he called over a disciple of Jinling and asked him to lead him to the cave residences of the second, third, and fourth senior sisters. At this time, Jinling and the others had all rushed back from Fantasy Spirit City. When Lu Ping saw Li Xuanru, he asked, "Senior sister, do you know why Uncle Master Tianqin and Uncle Master Tianxiang called me back?" Li Xuanru shook her head and said, "I don't know about that, but recently, that person seemed to have received an invitation from the Carefree Sect, inviting her to attend the grand ceremony of the Carefree Sect's treasured ship. It is said that there are two invitations, one is hers, and the other should be Senior Uncle Tianxiang's. If it's the Carefree Sect, they're really amazing." After knowing her identity, not only did they find the Jingling Island in such a short time, but they also included Senior Uncle Tianxiang in their calculations. When Lu Ping heard that there were two invitations from Carefree Sect, he was stunned. Back then, when Lu Ping and Tianqin Laozu pretended to be Dharma phase cultivators, they even fooled the Carefree Sect cultivators present. Could it be that the other invitation was for him? Otherwise, why would Tianqin Laozu and Uncle Master Tianxiang call him back from Hearing Waves Island in such a hurry? On Jingzha Island, in Tianxiang Laozu's cave, Lu Ping saw Tianqin Laozu, who had just returned from Fantasy Spirit City. After 3 months, Tianqin Laozu, who was originally seriously injured, looked much better. Tianqin Laozu glanced at Lu Ping, who had just entered the cave, and continued to report to Tianxiang Laozu about everything that happened in Fantasy Spirit City in the past 6 months. In just over half a year's time, the aura around Celestial Phenomenon Laozu grew more and more violent. At every moment, there would be waves of light and heavy pressure radiating out in all directions. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu was finding it increasingly difficult to control the aura around his body. It seemed that the tribulation of the mid-Dharma stage was imminent. However, from the fact that Celestial Phenomenon Laozu was still unwilling to trigger the tribulation until now, it was clear that he did not have much confidence in passing the tribulation. "I didn't expect there to be such a wonderful place in the Fallen Archipelago. The Crystal Palace obviously came prepared this time, but I didn't expect Xianling's sect to be involved. The crux of the matter isn't how much benefit Xianling's sect will get from following the Crystal Palace. The crux of the matter is that the Crystal Palace's actions have elevated Xianling's sect to the circle of large forces and well-known aristocratic families in the cultivation world. In this way, Xianling's sect's status in the cultivation world will be greatly elevated." Celestial Phenomenon Laozu seemed a little worried. "I'm afraid it will be difficult for our sect to be promoted to a second-class force this time, right?" Tianqin Laozu's expression was a little solemn as she said, "Just as Uncle said, this time the overseas sects fought fiercely in Phantom City. But after all, our sect has 9 Dharma adepts, Laozu, and their growth in strength is obvious to all. Although the various sects are very reluctant, they can't openly trample on the rules set by all the sections. Therefore, our promotion to a second-class force is considered smooth. In the end, we are ranked 9th among the medium-sized sects, second to last among the second-class forces. But what makes the disciples feel uneasy is that Xianling's sect, with the support of the Crystal Palace, has actually been promoted to a second-class force and even surpassed our sect, ranking 8th among the overseas medium-sized sections. Thinking of that old bastard Dao Yan's arrogant expression, I really want to go up and reason with him. In the North Sea, who doesn't know that our sect is now the real number 1 sect in the North Sea?" Celestial Phenomenon Laozu smiled slightly and said, "It's just an empty title. Xianling's sect has a great adept like Dao Shang, so it's only natural that Xianling's sect will be ranked ahead of our sect. With him standing in front of our sect, although it's glorious, it's also a shield." Tianqin Laozu smiled and said, "Uncle is still the one who sees things clearly. Looking at your aura now, I'm afraid you're not far from breaking through to the late Dharma stage. At that time, our sect will have another great adept of the late Dharma stage. After 100 years, our sect can totally be promoted to a first-class force among the medium-sized sections. Even if that Dao Sheng holds the title of number 1 in the North Sea until he dies, Xianling's sect will never be able to suppress our sect." Celestial Phenomenon Laozu shook his head and said, "Don't be careless. Don't forget that there's still the vast sea sect. Speaking of the vast sea sect, we have to talk about the carefree sect first. This time, the gathering of all the sects in the overseas training world in Phantom City attracted the most attention. One is that the carefree sect wants to apply to become the 9th major sect in the overseas region. At the same time, they also want to take over the share of the Spirit Stone Mine that was divided between the other 8 major forces and the Crystal Palace after the destruction of the Fei Ling sect. Although the sects can't deny the carefree sect's qualification, the Crystal Palace and the other sects, on the grounds that the carefree sect has not yet been recognized by the major sects in Central Plains and does not have a super long-distance teleportation portal that connects to the major sects in Central Plains, so the carefree sect's qualification application has been delayed for 100 years. They will discuss the qualifications of the carefree sect during the next overseas gathering. Oh, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu said with a smile, with the example of the carefree pavilion, it is difficult for the vast sea sect and the vast wave sect to regain the status of the vast sea sect among the 25 overseas forces. As Uncle Master expected, the merger of the two sects has not been recognized by the various sects in the overseas training world. Like the carefree pavilion, it was delayed until 100 years later to accept the application. The carefree sect was affected by this. After the gathering of all the sects in Phantom City, they launched the treasure ship to the Central Plains. That's why the carefree sect sent 2 invitations, inviting me to go to the carefree sect with the 2 Laozu of our sect, Lu Tianping, to watch the carefree sect's treasure ship sailing ceremony. After Lyra Laozu finished speaking, she giggled first. Then she told Celestial Phenomenon Laozu about how Lu Ping pretended to be Zhenling in the Fallen Archipelago. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu also smiled. After thinking for a moment, he said, the destination of the carefree sect this time is the Tianyue sect. Among these 2 sects, one has been operating in the EC for a long time and has a hidden force that is unknown to the overseas training world. The other is a famous sect in the Central Plains, which is mainly made up of female cultivators. Being able to occupy a place in the Central Plains is already extraordinary. Even the Crystal Palace is very afraid of the alliance of these 2 sections. In this case, you can take Xianping to the carefree sect and tell them clearly what happened. On the one hand, we can express our original intention of deceiving them that day, and on the other hand, we can convey the goodwill of Zhenling to them in order to build a good relationship between the 2 sects in the future. Lyra Laozu pointed at the stone armor on Lu Ping's body and said, the stone armor on your body is a good treasure. Even though it is very close to me and Uncle Celestial Phenomenon, we can't sense your cultivation aura. No wonder that day, no matter whether it was the people of the carefree sect, the Tianyue sect, or the cultivators of the Yuan family, they didn't realize that you were a cultivator in the core forging realm. But that's good. Although you haven't entered the Dharma realm, I'm afraid that the name of Lu Tianping Laozu has already been known by many sects in advance. Lu Ping smiled bitterly. The stone armor on his body was exquisite, simple, and even comfortable. Lu Ping usually put it on and forgot to put it away. This had become a habit when Lu Ping traveled. Hearing Lyra Laozu's words, the storage ring on Lu Ping's hand flashed and the stone armor was put into the storage space. As soon as Lu Ping's stone armor disappeared, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu and Lyra Laozu immediately noticed the abnormality in Lu Ping's body. Lyra Laozu blinked her eyes and smiled. What a cunning boy. When did you advance to the 6th layer of the core forging realm? You actually hid it from us for so long. Lu Ping smiled bitterly and said, this disciple risked his life to advance this time. Otherwise, how could I know that the secret area of the Fallen Archipelago has the magical effect of triggering the breakthrough of a late core forging realm cultivator? Lyra Laozu said, this information was actually obtained by you personally. Then why are you so sure that only late core forging realm cultivators can enter the secret area? Aren't you also at the middle core forging realm? Lu Ping's divine sense moved, and a divine sense that was far beyond that of an ordinary late core forging realm cultivator, and even comparable to that of a newly advanced core forging realm cultivator, spread out. Lu Ping explained, Disciples' divine sense has been different from ordinary people since childhood. Although I am only at the middle core forging realm, my divine sense is not weaker than that of a late core forging realm cultivator. It is precisely because of this that after entering the secret area, disciple was barely able to suppress the violent spiritual chi on the true essence. This allowed disciple to overcome the edge of losing control of true essence and finally luckily advance to the 6th layer of the core forging realm. If there is no powerful divine sense to control the operation of true essence under the guidance of the violent spiritual chi, the only thing waiting for the cultivator is the explosion of the body. This is also the reason why the Crystal Palace, the Central Plains Lu family, and the Yuan family all brought late core forging realm cultivators, and most of them are at the peak of the core forging realm. Celestial phenomenon. Laozu's eyes flashed with a strange light. Lyra, Laozu asked in surprise, "What a powerful divine sense cultivation! But why does your divine sense carry a pressure from the bloodline?" This is a power that only the Dharma idol. Laozu has purified his bloodline and formed a supernatural Dharma idol. Among the monster race, only the purest bloodline, the descendants of the 7th patriarch, the heaven-splitting 7th patriarch, can have a pressure from the bloodline. Lu Ping shook his head and smiled bitterly. This disciple really doesn't know. Lu Ping couldn't explain these things, so he simply pretended that he didn't know anything and let the others guess on their own. Carefree Island was originally a relatively desolate medium-sized island among the archipelagos in the East Sea. However, 2 late Dharma adepts of the Carefree sect and several mid-Dharma adepts had used their great magical powers to gather the 12 medium-sized islands in the archipelagos around Carefree Island, forming a brand new large island. After that, they had drawn in several hidden medium-sized spirit veins from all over the archipelagos, finally gathering them into one large spirit vein. Carefree Island, which had undergone an earth-shaking transformation, had become the base of the Carefree sect, a new large sect in the East Seas cultivation world. At the Carefree port outside of Carefree Island, Xiao Yuhuan Laozu looked at Lu Ping, who was following behind Lyra Laozu. She said with surprise, "Fellow Taoist Lu Tianping? He's actually Sister Xuanqin's martial nephew? And his cultivation is only at the 6th level of core forging. Sister Xuanqin, you really made a good move that day." Chapter 578. Lu Ping stepped forward and saluted. The situation was urgent that day, so I had to resort to this method. "I hope Senior won't blame me for deceiving you." Xiao Yuhuan Laozu looked at Lu Ping and said, "I originally said that martial nephew Lu was too young. Later, when I learned that Sister Xuanqin was a cultivator from North Sea Zhenling, I was even more surprised. I thought that Zhenling was very capable. Even if martial nephew Lu's cultivation was like a castle in the air and couldn't stand up to scrutiny, it was still very rare for him to be able to push his cultivation to such a high level at such a young age. I didn't expect there to be so many twists and turns. Martial nephew Lu is even more outstanding, and Zhenling is a sect with great cohesiveness and potential." Tianqin Laozu smiled and said, "Senior Sister Xiao is overpraising me." This time, in addition to watching the ceremony of the treasured ship and explaining what happened that day to Senior Sister Xiao, Junior Sister Tian Xiang also came here to congratulate Xiaoyao's sect for becoming the 9th major force in the overseas cultivation world. I also hope that the two sects can have more exchanges, especially since Xiaoyao's sect's inheritance and foundation are above our sects. At that time, I hope that your sect will not be stingy in teaching us." Xiao Yuhuan also looked happy when she heard this. She said, "Zhenling has a long inheritance in North Sea. This time, when Phantom City rearranged the ranking of the overseas cultivation world, your sect could be said to shine brilliantly, rising from the 3rd to the 2nd in one fell swoop, ranking 9th among the 25 medium-sized sections. Laozu's strength is really impressive. If it wasn't for the fact that your sect doesn't have a grand cultivator, there would be a place for your sect among the top 5 forces in the first class." Hearing Xiao Yuhuan's praise, Tianqin Laozu was about to be modest, but Xiao Yuhuan continued to say, "Xiaoyao's sect was founded, but its predecessor was boudoir. I think Sister Xuanqin is quite familiar with it. At this time, Xiaoyao's sect can be said to have 1,000 things waiting to be done. Cooperating with Zhenling, a powerful sect in the overseas cultivation world, must be an act of mutual benefit, especially to be able to cultivate a talent like martial nephew Lu. Your sect must have something extraordinary. I will report this matter to Senior Sister Yusin as soon as possible. I think Senior Sister Yusin will be very happy to hear this news." Jinling had to fight against Xianling sect, which was supported by the Crystal Palace in Beihai, while Xiaoyao sect directly targeted the Crystal Palace at the beginning of its establishment. After a verbal exchange between the two Laozu, they actually hit it off and immediately set up an alliance, waiting for the consent of the two sects, Laozu. Lu Ping was amazed by the lightning-fast consensus reached by the two parties. But he also realized that the situation of both parties at this time was in a period of rising. It seemed that they had unlimited glory, with one party being the strongest in Beihai, and the other causing the Crystal Palace to suffer losses in their hands several times. But the real situation of the two sects was extremely dangerous. Jinling could be suppressed by the sects in Beihai at any time because of the expansion of its own strength, while Xiaoyao sect stood on the opposite side of the Crystal Palace from the beginning. In such a situation, it was natural that the two sects could quickly stand together. The establishment of the ultra-long-distance teleportation formation between the overseas and the middle mainland required someone to carry the teleportation formation disk to clear the space channel along the way. However, the distance between the overseas cultivation world and the middle mainland was not the main reason. The key was the danger on the way to the middle mainland. Back then, the seventh patriarch opened up this world, but there were still many areas that had not been fully developed. For example, the distance between the overseas cultivation world and the middle mainland was extremely far, and there were many dangers along the way. If one wanted to send the teleportation formation disk to the middle mainland, it was almost impossible to succeed with the strength of one person. Therefore, the large sects in the overseas cultivation world gathered the strength of their sects to build huge and incomparably solid treasured ships. Controlled by the masters in the sects, they passed through the dangerous sea area between the overseas cultivation world and the middle mainland and escorted the ultra-long-distance teleportation formation disk to a large sect in the middle mainland that was allied with them. Finally, they built the ultra-long-distance teleportation formation disk to connect the middle mainland and the overseas cultivation world. The establishment of a treasured ship needed to gather the strength of the entire sect of a large sect, and it was also the embodiment of the whole sect. In the overseas cultivation world, if a large sect did not build a treasured ship and successfully sailed it back to the middle mainland, its identity as a large sect would not be recognized by the cultivation world. This was also the biggest reason why the Crystal Palace prevented the Xiaoyao sect from taking over the share of the spiritual stone mine of the failing sect. On the hillside in front of the Xiaoyao harbor, although the distance was extremely far, Lu Ping could clearly see the huge treasured ship without using the 3 pure true pupils. What shocked Lu Ping was not the length of the treasured ship and the width of the ship, but the fact that every part of the treasured ship was at least a top-grade celestial device. How many parts were there in the entire huge ship? What's more, on some key parts of the ship, there were some mysterious runes flashing on the surface of some of the important parts from time to time. They were obviously treasures, and these important parts had already been refined into celestial devices. Tianqin Laozu looked at the treasured ship that was docked in the harbor, and her expression could not be seen clearly. She only heard her ask, "Senior Xiao, which senior sister is in charge of the treasured ship heading to the middle mainland this time?" "It's senior sister Yu Cheng, and there are 4 junior sisters, Yu Ling, Yu Shu, Yu Jing, and Yu Jie. In addition, there are 8 late core forging disciples, 15 mid-core forging disciples, 27 early core forging disciples, and more than 200 blood condensation disciples who do odd jobs." Tianqin Laozu's expression changed, and she said, "A Grand Adept is leading the team, in addition to 1 mid-Dharma Adept and 3 early Dharma Adepts. There are a total of 5 Laozus. This is probably more than half of the known strength of your sect. Will it bring danger to your sect by transferring so many Dharma Adepts at once?" Xiao Yuhuan Laozu's lips curled into a smile, and she said, "You mean the Crystal Palace? Although the Crystal Palace delayed our sect's right to replace the failing sect by 100 years, and they also have the intention of using the treasured ship to travel to the middle mainland to deplete our sect's strength, how can our sect be so easily exploited by others? It's fine if the Crystal Palace doesn't come, but if they come, unless they send out all their forces, they will definitely be badly injured." At this moment, a thick beam of light suddenly rose from the huge, treasured ship. The light rose to a height of several hundred feet in one go, and suddenly exploded. A white light flashed, and within a radius of a few miles, the sunlight in the sky was almost covered. When Lu Ping looked over, the huge, treasured ship had already started to move slowly on the surface of the sea. The cheers of the disciples of the Xiaoyao sect could be heard from the shores around Liberty Port. Many practitioners rose into the sky and followed the treasured ship that was moving faster and faster on the surface of the sea. Xiao Yuhuan Laozu looked at Tianqin Laozu, who was in a daze, and said with a smile, "Sister Xianqin, do you also want to sit on this treasured ship and go to the middle mainland one day?" Tianqin Laozu sighed and said, "If I say I don't, senior sister Xiao won't believe me. It's just that the foundation of my Jinling sect can't be compared to that of your sect, and the North Sea is barren. Even if I, Jinling, keep going up, I'm afraid that our generation won't be able to see the scene of the treasured ship sailing west to the middle mainland. We can only pin our hopes on their generation." When Tianqin Laozu finished speaking, she looked at Lu Ping behind her. Xiao Yuhuan Laozu smiled and said, "Where there is a will, there is a will." This treasured ship is made up of 100,000 top-grade magic tools, over 1,000 ordinary magic treasures, and the important positions also need to be supported by psychic magic treasures and even spirit-nurturing magic treasures. Only then can it be assembled into such a colossus. A treasured ship not only embodies a sect's refinement techniques, formation techniques, puppetry techniques, talisman techniques, and alchemy techniques, but it is also a competition of the sect's financial resources and cultivation resources. Before my Xiaoyao sect was established, we operated in the cultivation world of the Eastern Sea as a boudoir for over 1,000 years and accumulated countless financial resources. But if we really want to remake a treasured ship, it will be impossible to complete it without several hundred years of time. Even if it is completed, I'm afraid that more than half of the savings of my Xiaoyao sect over 1,000 years will be used up. When Tianqin Laozu heard Xiao Yuhuan Laozu's words, she hesitated for a moment and then asked, "What do you mean, senior sister?" Xiao Yuhuan said with a smile, "Sister, I've told you before that this treasure ship of our sect was originally excavated from the ruins of a sect that had been destroyed in the cultivation world for a long time. At that time, this treasure ship was only half completed. After a few decades of repairing and perfecting by our sect, it can now set sail for the central region." Tianqin Laozu smiled bitterly and said, "Senior sister, you mean to say that we should start preparing for a rainy day, or to find some sects that have been annihilated in time and see if we can find some wreckage of treasured ships to reduce the burden of the sect?" Xiao Yuhuan nodded and said, "That's right. If Xinling really has the courage to attack the big sects in the future, then it's best to start preparing now." Tianqin Laozu said, "Senior sister, you're right. It's a pity that the North Sea is barren. Since the beginning of records, there has only been one big sect, Failing Sect." Senior sister, are you referring to Failing Sect?" Xiao Yuhuan Laozu nodded and said solemnly, "Junior sister, don't you see clearly that the so-called overflowing sea gang is the pawn of the Crystal Palace that has sneaked into the North Sea? Now the Crystal Palace has even begun to personally interfere in the affairs of the North Sea." "Why?" Tianqin Laozu said in surprise. "Is it really for the ruins of Failing Sect that have sunk to the bottom of the sea?" Xiao Yuhuan Laozu chuckled and said, "Sister, please forgive me for my inappropriate words. Apart from the ruins of Failing Sect in the North Sea, is there anything else that the Crystal Palace is interested in?" Tianqin Laozu became silent and seemed to be digesting this amazing news. Xiao Yuhuan Laozu's words were exaggerated, but it made sense. If there was anything in the North Sea that was worth the Crystal Palace spending so much money to manage, it seemed to be the relics of Failing Sect. Xiao Yuhuan Laozu seemed to want to continue and said another piece of news that shocked Tianqin Laozu. "Nowadays, the situation in the cultivation world is unclear. The central mainland is in turmoil, and now it has even affected many big sections. I'm afraid that the overseas cultivation world will not be peaceful. This time, when the heavenly wall of poison opened, many practitioners were killed. Although it is difficult to preserve the bodies of the fallen practitioners in the fallen archipelago, my Xiaoyao sect still found that some practitioners actually died because of the exhaustion of their divine thoughts." "Exhaustion of divine thoughts?" Tianqin Laozu asked in confusion. Then, as if she thought of something, Her eyes widened and a trace of fear appeared on her face. She said, "Is it really exhaustion of divine thoughts?" Chapter 579. Seeing Tianqin Laozu's excitement, Lu Ping asked in confusion, "Martial uncle, what's going on?" Tianqin Laozu turned around and said, "I'll tell you in detail later." After that, Tianqin Laozu turned to Xiao Yuhuan and asked, "Senior Sister Xiao, did you see that thing with your own eyes?" Xiao Yuhuan shook her head and said solemnly, "Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, it's most likely the demon clan." At that time, it was not only my free and unfettered school who saw the corpse, even the fellow Taoists of the Heavenly Moon sect saw it with their own eyes. After that, I reported this matter to Senior Sister Yu Xin. Senior Sister Yu Xin once personally asked Yuan Luo of the Yuan clan about this matter in Fantasy Spirit City. Although that Yuan Luo did not see the corpse, after hearing Senior Sister Yu Xin's description of the deceased, he also thought that it was very likely that the demon race had appeared. Tianqin Laozu let out a long breath and said, "Yuan family's lightning magic is the most effective way to restrain the demon clan. Yuan family is the vanguard against the demon clan every time, so they know the demon clan best. Since Yuan Luo said it was the demon clan, then it must be the demon clan." Not only that, Xiao Yuhuan Laozu continued, "Crystal Palace also met Poison Azura this time." Poison Azura? I've never heard of Poison Azura appearing in the Fallen Archipelago before, and Poison Azura rarely appeared in the past. Tianqin Laozu took a breath and said with a bitter smile, "Senior Sister, how many things happened in the Fallen Archipelago this time? Why did both Azura and the Demon Clan appear there? But I, Zhenling, didn't receive any news in the Fantasy Spirit City. These matters have only been spread amongst the 8 great sects of the Endless Sea region and the Crystal Palace. Although our carefree sect has been pushed aside by the Crystal Palace, our strength is already sufficient. They would love for our sect to participate in this as well so that we can share their burden. As a result, we have also learned of this matter. If the other mid-sized sects do not have their own connections, they are probably still in the dark." Tianqin Laozu sighed and said softly, "The Shura is bloodthirsty, and the demon race devours souls." Senior Sister Xiao, this time, the myriad poison firmament wall suddenly closed, causing many cultivators to die inside. Is it also because of the demon race and Azura race? Lu Ping was somewhat dumbfounded when he heard this. Lu Ping was very clear about the reason why the myriad poison firmament wall suddenly closed, but he did not expect that Lyra Laozu would actually link this matter with the demon race and Azura. Xiao Yuhuan was also a little stunned, but she still said, "I've never thought about this matter, but after hearing Junior Sister's reminder, the Fallen Archipelago is a highly toxic place. Could it really be a hiding place for Poison Azura? Why haven't we found any traces of Poison Azura in the Fallen Archipelago for dozens of times?" Lu Ping felt strange in his heart, but he did not dare to show it on his face. He could only listen to the two Laozu guessing the truth of the matter. After meeting Yu Xian Laozu, the great practitioner of the Xiaoyao sect, and bringing Tian Xiang Laozu's intention to make friends with the Xiaoyao sect on behalf of Zhenling, Lyra Laozu took Lu Ping back to the Fallen Secret Land. Along the way, Lyra Laozu looked serious, and Lu Ping followed her silently without saying anything. He was just thinking about the news about Poison Azura and the demon race that Xiao Yuhuan Laozu had once told him. Azura aside, Lu Ping had met Water Azura and Ice Azura in the North Sea, so he had some understanding of the Azura clan. However, it was the first time that Lu Ping had heard of the demon race, and from the tone of the two Laozus, Xiao Yuhuan and Lyra, it seemed that the appearance of the demon race was a taboo, and the major sects seemed unwilling to publicize the appearance of the demon race in the world of cultivation. On Jingzha Island, Tian Xiang Laozu finished listening to Lyra Laozu's experience in the Xiaoyao sect, and the cave suddenly fell silent. Only the more violent aura around Tian Xiang Laozu revealed that Tian Xiang Laozu's mood at the moment was extremely turbulent. After a long time, Tian Xiang Laozu finally opened his eyes and said calmly, "Originally, the old man wanted to make some more preparations, but I did not expect the situation to deteriorate so quickly. Passing the mid-Dharma stage tribulation is imminent." The Sky Zither Elder was taken aback and said, "Uncle Master, it's better to think twice before you act. The tribulation of the mid-Dharma stage is extremely dangerous. Uncle Master, it's best if you make sure you're fully prepared before you face the tribulation. Now that we have 9 Dharma adepts in the Junling sect, if we really go all out, even a large sect would be wary of us. I don't think the sects in the North Sea will dare to join forces to suppress our sect. They are not fools. Can't they see that Xianling sect has the support of the Crystal Palace? Doing so will only benefit Xianling sect. Without our sect to contain them, it would be like inviting a wolf into the house. Tianxiang Laozu shook his head and said, "How can there be any complete preparations? These few years, in order to delay the arrival of the tribulation, I have made more preparations. I have been suppressing my own aura, but now I can't delay it any longer. If the old man does not even dare to take this little risk, then he deserves to not be able to pass this tribulation." Tianxiang Laozu saw that Tianxiang Laozu had made up his mind, so he no longer tried to persuade him. However, Tianxiang Laozu continued to say, Dao Sheng was so talented and arrogant back then. Could it be that he could not see the purpose of the Crystal Palace and was willing to be the spear of the Crystal Palace in the North Sea? Tianxiang Laozu was puzzled and asked, "Why is that?" Tianxiang Laozu said faintly, "They are just using each other. Dao Sheng knows the principle of putting away the good bough when the birds are gone, but he is still willing to be ordered around by the Crystal Palace, just because the Crystal Palace supports Xianling sect." Tianxiang Laozu said with some disdain, "Isn't it because he is driven by benefits? He only sees the benefits in front of him and is short-sighted." Tianxiang Laozu said seriously, "If you only see it this way, then no wonder you can't be the sect head deacon of Jinling. You are smart enough, but you can't compare to Tianxiang. In the cultivation world, there is no such thing as a free lunch. The key is to see who has the better means. The Crystal Palace is using Xianling sect as a tool, and Xianling sect is also hoping that when the Crystal Palace is ready to cook the dog after the rabbit is dead, Xianling sect will be strong enough to make the master of the Crystal Palace hesitate to take action." Tianxiang Laozu was surprised and said, "Isn't this taking a risk? How can the Crystal Palace let Xianling sect become stronger? How can Dao Sheng put Xianling sect in such a dangerous situation?" Tianxiang Laozu shook his head and said, "This is exactly Dao Sheng's brilliance. If there is no external intervention, Xianling sect's decline is a foregone conclusion. The tribulation of the cultivation world is coming. Xianling sect and other weak small and medium-sized sects are generally facing the threat of extinction. Even if the sect is not destroyed, I am afraid that what awaits Xianling sect is thousands of years or even longer. Instead of that, Dao Sheng might as well take a risk when the tribulation begins and take the opportunity to get rid of the control of the Crystal Palace. If he passes the tribulation, Xianling sect will once again dominate the North Sea, and may even regain the power and influence that Fei Ling sect had in the past." Tianxiang Laozu listened to Tianxiang Laozu's explanation and remained silent. Lu Ping, on the other hand, sat cross-legged and listened to the conversation between the two Tianxiang Laozu. He had a deeper understanding of the deception and deceit of the cultivation world and the law of the jungle. At this moment, Tianxiang Laozu suddenly turned to Lu Ping and said, "In 7 days, you will follow the old man to receive the tribulation of the mid-Dharma stage. If the old man is unfortunate enough to fall, you will be responsible for bringing the few belongings of the old man back to the sect. As for the other belongings, you can have them all." Lu Ping was taken aback and was about to decline when Tianxiang Laozu waved his hand to stop him from speaking. He continued, "I heard that you have done a lot for the sect over the years, but Tianling has been holding back from giving you any rewards. I know that Tianling has high expectations of you. She is doing this to accumulate all your contributions so that when you are in real trouble, she can use the entire sect to help you." Lu Ping had never heard of this before and had a shocked expression on his face. Tianxiang Laozu, however, acted as if he did not see it and continued to say, "Fortunately, your family has not let us down. Not only is your level of practice the best among your peers, your family's business has also been quite successful. You rarely take the initiative to ask for anything from the sect. The old man is also returning the favor on behalf of the sect. When the old man was at your level of practice, his wealth could not be compared to yours. However, The old man has been in the cultivation world for hundreds of years after all. Other than a few treasures of the sect, the rest of the belongings are from the old man's collection over the past hundreds of years. Take it all as a reward for your contributions to the sect all these years. How much did a Dharma adept, Lao Tzu, have? What's more, he was a mid-Dharma adept of a sect. Even if he returned a few of the treasures that the sect had refined using all of its resources to the sect, the remaining items would be enough to make any cultivator in the cultivation world drool. Tianqin Laozu looked at Tianxiang Laozu in shock, but in her heart, she was thinking about how much Lu Ping had contributed to the sect for Tianxiang Laozu to give him all of his hundreds of years of collection. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He hurriedly waved his hands and said, "How can I accept this? How can I accept this? Tianxiang Laozu once again interrupted Lu Ping and said with a smile, "You don't have to decline. If the old man successfully survives this tribulation, you will naturally not be able to obtain the old man's collection. No matter what, this time, the old man still has a 50% chance of surviving the tribulation." Lu Ping asked in disbelief, "Only a 50% chance?" But then he thought of something and smiled sheepishly. Tianqin Laozu said to Lu Ping angrily, 50% chance? Do you know what the success rate of a mid-Dharma adept is? Less than 10%. A 50% chance is already extremely high. Tianxiang Laozu chuckled and said to Tianqin Laozu, "His level of practice has not reached this level yet, so it's normal that he doesn't know much about the Dharma stage." Tianqin Laozu rolled his eyes at Lu Ping and did not say another word. Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, "Why don't you let Uncle Master Tianqin go and protect Uncle Master when he is going through the tribulation? What if someone tries to do something bad to Uncle Master when he is going through the tribulation? How can I defend myself with my low level of practice?" Tianxiang Laozu and Tianqin Laozu looked at each other, and then Tianqin Laozu explained with a smile, "When a Dharma adept receives the tribulation, no other Dharma adept will dare to stay within the range of the tribulation. Otherwise, regardless of whether the second adept is willing or not, his tribulation will automatically descend. Hence, when a Dharma adept is going through the tribulation, other Dharma adepts will not dare to go near, and the threat of other core forging adepts will naturally not be taken into consideration." Chapter 580. 7 days later, on a desolate island in the fallen secret territory, Lu Ping followed behind Tianxiang Laozu and Laozu. Tianxiang Laozu turned to look at Lu Ping, then said to Tianxiang Laozu, "Martial uncle, disciple will go to the periphery and wait. I wish martial uncle success." Then Tianxiang Laozu said to Lu Ping, "Martial nephew Lu, I didn't want to say much, but I hope you can understand that the reason why Tianxiang gave you this opportunity is not just to give you his treasures, but also to hope that you can be the core of the future rise of our sect, and that you can take the treasures of Jinling back and forth between the North Sea and the Central Plains." Tianxiang Laozu paused, as if he felt that he didn't say it clearly enough. So he continued, "Observing the tribulation of a Dharma adept is a great opportunity for a core forging cultivator. I hope that martial nephew Lu can seize this opportunity and improve your cultivation." After Tianxiang Laozu said this, he turned and disappeared. Lu Ping looked at Tianxiang Laozu with some doubt, but Tianxiang Laozu smiled and said, "You don't have to take what your martial uncle said to heart. The rise of a sect has never been because of the strength of a single cultivator. However, if the old man is lucky enough to survive the tribulation, there is indeed an opportunity in it. But as for where this opportunity is, even the old man has no way of knowing. When the time comes, it will depend on your luck." As soon as Tianxiang Laozu's voice fell, in Lu Ping's divine sense, an invisible layer of astral qi around Tianxiang Laozu suddenly dissipated. Tianxiang Laozu, who was bound by the invisible force, suddenly became like a wild horse that was released from its reins. In an instant, it swept out in a radius of 30 miles. At the same time that Tianxiang Laozu released his aura, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth suddenly became violent with Tianxiang Laozu as the center. The sky within a radius of 10 miles was filled with countless strange phenomena. As the wind blew and the clouds churned, more and more dark clouds gathered above Tianxiang Laozu, gradually blotting out the sunlight. The sky was like the bottom of a pot, and the surrounding scenery gradually darkened until one couldn't even see their fingers if they stretched out their hands in front of them. This little bit of darkness naturally couldn't obstruct Lu Ping and the others. Tianxiang Laozu smiled at Lu Ping and said, "The old man is about to receive his own tribulation. You have to watch carefully. In the future, when your cultivation base reaches this level, what you see today might be of great benefit to you." Celestial Phenomenon Patriarch slammed his own chest and let out a deafening roar that resounded through the sky. When Lu Ping looked over, he saw a half-foot-long ape made of real yuan suddenly jumping out from Tianxiang Laozu's chest. The ape hovered in front of Tianxiang Laozu and suddenly let out another provocative roar towards the sky. Immediately after, the ape's body expanded like a balloon, directly growing to the size of 3 feet, transforming into a huge golden mouth with 2 fangs shining with a cold light. Both of his hands struck the ape's chest with an incomparably ferocious expression. Lu Ping knew that this giant ape was the Dharma form of Tianxiang Laozu after he advanced to the Dharma phase. From this, it could be seen that Tianxiang Laozu cultivated the first of the 5 true teachings of Jinling, the mystical ape water manipulation art. Just as the giant ape made of real yuan roared towards the sky, revealing its aura to the world, Lu Ping suddenly felt a strong vitality from this giant ape. Yes, it was vitality. The Dharma form condensed by a Dharma phase practitioner in the core space was not like the golden elixir condensed by a core forging stage practitioner, which was the condensation of real yuan and the essence of blood, but a kind of life essence. Every time a core forging stage practitioner advanced to the next level, while strengthening the real yuan and the essence of blood, the practitioner's divine thoughts would be tempered into the golden elixir, making the golden elixir of the core forging stage practitioner like an egg endlessly endowed with life essence. When the real yuan, blood, divine thoughts, and spirituality from heaven and earth contained in this egg reached the limit, these things would finally be brewed into a mass of condensed life essence. At this time, it was the time for the core forging stage practitioner to condense the golden elixir and reach the peak of the core forging stage. At this time, when the life essence in the egg was condensed to a high enough density and purity that the golden elixir could no longer contain it, the life essence would flourish and form a Dharma form in the core space of the practitioner. This meant that the practitioner had successfully advanced to the Dharma phase. To a practitioner, Dharma form often meant a second life. However, although the Dharma form was condensed from the life essence, it did not mean that the Dharma form was endowed with life. It still needed to go through trials and tribulations before the abundant life essence could finally be awakened. And these trials and tribulations were the Dharma phase practitioner's tribulations. Celestial Laozu was now a mid-Dharma adept, and he had already passed the early Dharma phase tribulation. The life essence in the Dharma phase had already been partially awakened, and this boundless life essence was transformed into pure yang qi by the Dharma phase practitioner. What was the source of the pure yang qi in heaven and earth, and who gave it this pure yang qi? In the pitch-black sky above Celestial Laozu's Dharma giant ape, a clap of thunder resounded through the universe. Countless golden bolts of lightning seemed to fill the entire dark clouds, as if they were golden ropes that were tied to one's body. The power of lightning was the most yang energy in heaven and earth. A practitioner who had passed the tribulation of lightning would naturally recover this pure yang energy and finally awaken the huge amount of life essence in the practitioner's Dharma phase. The golden giant ape was majestic, and the muscles all over its body swelled up. The golden fur that was formed from the blood essence in its body was even thicker. At this moment, a bolt of lightning that was also golden in color suddenly shot out from the dark clouds, descending towards the head of the giant ape. Immediately after, another bolt of lightning exploded, as if admitting that it had come too late. When the giant ape saw this bolt of lightning descending, its ferocious face that was formed from the blood essence actually revealed a hint of mockery. The giant ape's body was suddenly covered in a layer of blood red, and the originally golden giant ape suddenly became a golden red color. The giant ape clapped its palms together, then pulled outwards, and a golden light screen suddenly appeared on top of the giant ape's head. The lightning descended, but it only caused a ripple on the surface of the golden light screen, and then the lightning disappeared. The giant ape's disdainful demeanor seemed to have angered the dark clouds that seemed to be filled with countless electric snakes. Countless electric snakes gathered in the dark clouds, finally forming a thick bolt of lightning. As this bolt of lightning pierced through the void and fell towards the giant ape, the area around the bolt of lightning suddenly burst into flames. Lightning fire. The giant ape suddenly roared, and a fierce aura soared into the sky. It clenched its fists tightly, and its feet suddenly shot up into the sky. Its right fist suddenly smashed towards the descending tribulation fire, and a layer of golden glove that looked like flowing water had condensed on the giant ape's right fist at some point. Crack! A crisp sound rang out, as if it had suddenly pierced through the air, causing the surrounding air to continuously explode. The giant ape let out a roar and landed on the ground with a bang. The lightning fire in the sky had disappeared at some point. When Lu Ping looked over, the golden glove on the giant ape's right fist had already disappeared. Its entire right fist and golden right arm had become incomparably illusory, like a reflection in the water that could disappear at any time. The giant ape's left arm hit its chest, and with a muffled bang, a stream of golden red light suddenly appeared on the giant ape's left chest. Immediately after, this stream of light was like a blooming flower, with the giant ape's chest as the center, spreading throughout its entire body. The giant ape stretched out its right arm, and the originally illusory right arm was suddenly filled with a rich golden red light, suddenly becoming a lot more solid. Just as the golden red blood light exploded from the giant ape's chest, Lu Ping's eyes flashed, and he seemed to faintly see Celestial Laozu's body in the giant ape's chest. It only took a moment for the giant ape to restore its right arm that had been destroyed by the lightning. The dark clouds in the sky surged again, but this time there was no lightning. Instead, countless lightning snakes drilled out of the dark clouds. These lightning snakes wriggled down from the dark clouds, and then converged towards the giant ape from all directions. The giant ape's previous fierce expression immediately receded a lot, and suddenly raised its two huge palms, shooting 10 water arrows towards the area with the densest lightning snakes. Lu Ping's keen divine sense detected a trace of spirituality in the 10 water arrows. This was a phenomenon unique to spells and spells. These 10 incomparably ordinary magic arts actually had the power of at least a minor magic art. Boom, boom, boom. 10 consecutive explosions rang out, and the 10 water arrows struck the 10 lightning snakes. However, the moment the 10 lightning snakes were destroyed by the water arrows, they suddenly exploded into a ball of lightning, and at the same time, the water arrows were also blown to pieces. Lu Ping's expression changed. He didn't think that these lightning snakes in the sky would have such power. What made Lu Ping even more terrified was that these lightning snakes would self-destruct after receiving a destructive attack. The power of one lightning snake self-destructing was only at the level of a minor magic art. However, at this moment, there were no less than thousands of lightning snakes snaking down from the sky. If all of these lightning snakes self-destructed at the same time, the power could be described as toppling mountains and overturning the seas. The giant ape seemed to be startled by this, and in the instant the 10 water arrows exploded, the giant ape seemed to have no regard for its life. It continuously swung its palms towards the sky, and each time it swung, 10 water arrows would fly towards the lightning snakes in all directions. It was as if countless firecrackers had been set off in the sky, and countless explosions rang out together before erupting, causing the seawater beneath their feet to rise to a height of 30 feet. Although the giant ape tried its best to detonate the lightning snakes in the sky, how could it destroy thousands of them in such a short time? Just as the giant ape was doing its best to destroy the lightning serpents closest to it, the surrounding lightning serpents had already formed a huge encirclement around the giant ape. It was as if a huge electric net had been woven, ready to capture the giant ape in one fell swoop. The giant ape struggled with all its might in an attempt to tear through the electric net and escape. Chapter 581. Countless electric snakes wove into a web of lightning around the giant ape, constantly tightening the encirclement. The center of the web of lightning continued to rumble. This was the giant ape of the celestial elephant clan, still resisting the attack of the electric snakes. Just as the lightning serpent was getting closer and closer, the golden hair on the surface of the celestial phenomenon patriarch's great ape Dharma form, which was formed by the Zhen Yuan, suddenly stood up, like an arrow that had been pulled taut. The giant ape abruptly struggled, and countless strands of golden fur shot out in all directions. Each strand of fur struck a lightning snake, and the countless lightning snakes exploded into a ball of lightning almost at the same time. Countless lightning bolts intertwined with each other, forming a huge ball of lightning. Then, it turned into a chain of lightning that wrapped around the giant ape's body. The giant ape looked at the lightning ropes descending on its body, and its body suddenly crouched to the ground. Then, it suddenly leaped forward, and its two palms fiercely grabbed one of the lightning ropes and tore it apart. The giant ape let out a cry of pain, and with a crackling sound, the rope had already been torn into two by the giant ape. The giant ape's two palms had also been struck by the lightning and turned pitch black. The giant ape's entire body surged with spiritual yuan, and the golden spiritual yuan flowed into its palms like a liquid, and the pitch-black palms suddenly turned golden again. Just as the giant ape tore apart one of the lightning ropes, the remaining two quickly shrank, binding the giant ape. However, as the lightning ropes rapidly shrank, the giant ape's body also shrank by a third. The lightning ropes that were originally binding the giant ape suddenly loosened. The giant ape seized the opportunity to break another lightning rope. However, in the instant that the second lightning rope broke, the third lightning rope suddenly changed its form. The rope that it had formed automatically split apart, turning into a lightning whip that was 30 feet long. Pa! The lightning whip took advantage of the moment when the giant ape tore apart the second rope and whipped the giant ape's back. A massive whip mark appeared behind the great ape's back, and countless golden true essence fragments scattered in all directions. The great ape fiercely staggered forward, almost falling to the ground. The lightning whip was raised in the air once more. The long whip unfurled and lashed at the back of the giant ape once more. Just as the lightning whip was about to strike giant ape's back again, giant ape, who was unable to dodge in time, suddenly turned around and caught the whip in his hand. Countless explosions rang out from the giant ape's palms that were gripping the lightning whip. The golden luster on the giant ape's surface instantly dissipated under the bombardment of the lightning. Immediately afterwards, a golden red color erupted from the giant ape's chest and spread throughout its entire body. The thunder whip struggled with all its might in the giant ape's hand and shot out 3 bolts of lightning in a row. Every time the thunder whip released a bolt of lightning, the color of the thunder whip would fade a little. At the same time, 3 golden red rays of light burst out from the ape's chest, replenishing the golden yellow real essence that had been depleted by the lightning strikes. After the 3 bolts of lightning, the power of the thunder whip was greatly reduced. Giant Ape took the opportunity to step on one end of the thunder whip, and then grabbed the other end with both hands and pulled hard. The thunder whip was suddenly pulled in two. Lu Ping could clearly see that every time Celestial Laozu's Dharma aspect Giant Ape dispersed the bombardment of lightning, there was a vague, mysterious aura lingering around the Giant Ape. As the Giant Ape dispersed the lightning more times, this mysterious aura became stronger and stronger. Perhaps this was the pure yang energy that Celestial Laozu had once explained to him. The pure yang energy was contained within the lightning. The process of the lightning being dispersed was actually a process of the cultivator collecting the pure yang energy. Unfortunately, although the pure yang energy lingered around Celestial Phenomenon Patriarch's body, given his current condition, he didn't have the time to refine it. After the great ape Dharma idol survived the 3rd wave of lightning tribulation, the 4th, 5th, and 6th waves of lightning tribulation came right after. The great ape Dharma idol leapt up and down. Its arms, right legs, and shoulders disintegrated by the lightning tribulation. 3 times, it was replenished by the golden red true energy that erupted from the great ape Dharma idol's chest. However, the true energy that erupted from the great ape Dharma idol gradually turned blood red from its previous golden red color. However, after the 6th wave of lightning, The real essence that burst out from the giant ape's chest was no longer golden red. Instead, it was bright red with a hint of gold. The golden giant ape had now turned into a golden red giant ape with golden fur. Lu Ping's expression also became more and more serious. The reason why Celestial Laozu's Dharma aspect giant ape was golden at the beginning was because the Dharma aspect giant ape was completely transformed from Celestial Laozu's real essence. After that, as the real essence was consumed, Celestial Laozu began to use the bloodline essence that had been condensed for hundreds of years. The bloodline essence was originally formed from real essence. Drop by drop, it would first gather within the gold core. Then, the gold core would shatter and the Dharma aspect would be born. The bloodline essence would then become the foundation of the Dharma aspect. At present, Celestial Laozu's real essence was clearly on the brink of exhaustion. He could only stimulate the bloodline essence again and again. As a result, Celestial Laozu's real essence and magic power were replenished. However, it also weakened the foundation of the Dharma aspect. Even if Celestial Laozu was lucky enough to overcome the lightning tribulation in the future, he would need at least tens or even hundreds of years to recover. Additionally, even if he were to recondense the bloodline essence to replenish his foundation, it would not be as easy as before. His strength would inevitably be greatly weakened. The dark clouds in the sky kept gathering from all directions. However, the dark clouds above the giant ape's head became increasingly concentrated and countless lightning bolts flashed about within the dark clouds. At that moment, Celestial Laozu's Dharma aspect, the giant ape, also seemed to have sensed something unusual. When it raised its head, it saw that in the center of the dark clouds above the giant ape's head, countless lightning bolts had converged and condensed, gradually forming a ball of lightning that looked like liquid. Lu Ping looked at the ball of lightning above Laozu's Dharma aspect with a puzzled look. Suddenly, he heard Celestial Laozu's sigh. Is this the liquid form of lightning bolts? Before this, the old man vowed that he had made sufficient preparations. However, in the face of the might of the heavens and earth, the strength of a human is insignificant. When Lu Ping turned his head to look, he saw that Celestial Laozu had already emerged from the Dharma aspect, and the giant ape Dharma aspect was already floating above Celestial Laozu's head. Celestial Laozu was looking at the ball of lightning in the center of the dark clouds above his head. His face was pale and his eyes were bloodshot. His clothes were also stained with blood, and more than half of his previously black hair had turned white. Celestial Laozu let out a long sigh. This time, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to hide. Lu Ping was standing several tens of feet away from Celestial Laozu. When he heard this, his heart tightened, and he hurriedly asked, "Why does Senior Granduncle say this? 2/3 of the lightning tribulation has passed. If Senior Granduncle can hold on for a little longer, our sect will usher in the best opportunity to rise again because of Senior Granduncle." Celestial Laozu looked at the ball of lightning in the sky, which had gradually grown from the size of a head to a diameter of 3 feet. He laughed bitterly and said, "It's not as simple as you think. The power of the 9 bolts of lightning is gradually increasing, and when it comes to the last 3 bolts of lightning, its power can almost be described as destroying the heavens and the earth." The old man had originally estimated that the tribulation of the mid-Dharma stage would be big enough, but in the end, he still underestimated its power. To be able to hold on until now, the old man has already exhausted his inner yuan and his physical body has been damaged. He is truly at the end of his rope. Lu Ping lowered his head in thought for a moment and said, "Does Senior Granduncle not have any elixirs that can quickly recover inner yuan and repair the physical body?" Celestial Laozu looked at Lu Ping and said, "Why not? Your Senior Granduncle Tianlu once spent more than 10 years collecting spirit herbs, and he used almost a year to produce 6 instantaneous yuan elixirs. For this, Tianlu Laozu even asked your teacher for a spirit demon fruit, but now there's only one left." Looking at the grape-sized purple elixir in his hand, Celestial Laozu handed it over to Lu Ping and said, "Even if the old man consumes this elixir, he will at most struggle to get through the 7th lightning tribulation. In the end, he will not be able to escape the fate of death. This elixir, however, is extremely precious. It can replenish the inner yuan of an early Dharma adept in an extremely short period of time. Even a mid-Dharma adept can recover 1/5 to 1/3 of his inner yuan in an instant. This is the work of Brother Tianlu after many years of hard work. You should keep it, lest it is wasted in the hands of the old man. The ball of lightning in the sky seemed to have turned into a drop of water that was almost as bright as the full moon. It hung at the bottom of the funnel-shaped dark clouds, looking as if it would fall at any time. Celestial Laozu looked at Lu Ping, who was deep in thought, and smiled. The old man knows that you are a master of alchemy. I heard from Tianqin and Tianlu that you have many strange things on you, but the Dharma stage cannot be compared to the core forging stage. When you reach this stage in the future, you will understand the huge difference between the two. When he heard that Tianlu Laozu had once received a spirit demon fruit from his teacher, Lu Ping's first reaction was to think of the 3 spirit demon peaches he had given to his teacher during the Dharma assembly. Seeing that Celestial Laozu had brought a purple pill to Lu Ping's face suddenly broke into a smile. Grandmaster, cultivation is originally a struggle against the heavens and the earth. If you don't give up at the last moment, how can you be a cultivator? Grandmaster has walked the path of cultivation for hundreds of years. You obviously understand this principle more deeply than your disciple. Why do you not dare to fight at the last moment? Celestial Laozu laughed bitterly. Just as he was about to say something, his expression suddenly changed. Looking at the thing that appeared in Lu Ping's hand, even though he had cultivated for 900 years and had experienced countless vicissitudes of life and death, at this moment, he could not control his state of mind. He asked in shock, This is actually the spirit demon fruit? Lu Ping laughed. Grandmaster, you may not know this, but the spirit demon fruit was originally found by your disciple in a historical relic. It was a gift that I gave to Master to help him achieve the Dharma Adept stage. It's just that when I gave the spirit demon peach to Master, I naturally hid it. Chapter 582. The appearance of the spiritual demonic peaches had obviously moved Celestial Phenomenon Laozu greatly. However, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu had experienced hundreds of years of trials and tribulations after all. His Tao heart had long been tempered to an incomparably firm state. After seeing the 3 spiritual demonic peaches, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu quickly chuckled and said, Do you really want to give these 3 spiritual demonic peaches to the old man? You have to know that in the cultivation world, the spiritual demonic fruit has always been a treasure that can only be found by luck. Moreover, every kind of spiritual demonic fruit is a necessary item to refine pills that strengthen the body. If the old man uses it now, when you reach the level of the old man in the future, there may not be such a spiritual demonic fruit to appear again. Lu Ping looked at the big teardrop hanging at the bottom of the dark cloud. Seeing that Celestial Phenomenon Laozu didn't seem to care and was still asking for Lu Ping's opinion, Lu Ping couldn't help but say anxiously, Martial Granduncle, the lightning tribulation is right in front of you. You should deal with it first. As for the spiritual demonic peaches, although they are rare, they are after all worldly possessions. If Martial Granduncle becomes a great cultivator, won't there be any benefits for your disciple? Celestial Phenomenon Laozu looked deeply at Lu Ping, suddenly threw his head back and laughed loudly. All right, let the old man also fight for the sake of the old man's life for our sect. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu first put the instant yuan pill into his abdomen. A huge aura suddenly surged out with Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's body as the center. Lu Ping, who was standing hundreds of feet away, was affected by this aura. Even though Lu Ping tried his best to resist, he still couldn't help but retreat several feet into the sea behind him. The sea surface was stomped by Lu Ping's retreating footsteps, creating several waves. Lu Ping was extremely shocked. It was only at this moment that Lu Ping had a more direct understanding of the true power of a Dharma phase cultivator. Just the aura that overflowed from the recovery of the vital essence was enough to make Lu Ping lose control of his own body in that instant. Lu Ping knew that this was the result of the instant essence pill instantly restoring the true essence within the cultivator's body. Lu Ping had heard of the instant essence pellet when he was learning the art of alchemy from the Forsaken Sky Cauldron Grand Ancestor. In alchemy, The instant essence pellet was first created to harm others. If a cultivator below the core forging stage were to mistakenly consume this pill, the cultivator's body would be unable to withstand the sudden influx of true essence due to the blood vessels in their bodies being unable to withstand the sudden influx of true essence. In an instant, the cultivator who consumed the pill would explode due to the sudden increase in true essence. Not only the cultivators below the core forging stage, but also some cultivators who had barely reached the Dharma phase through external secret techniques, even if they did not explode and die after consuming the pill by mistake. There were cases where the core space in the heart was destroyed by the huge amount of vital essence. Therefore, when the Flash Yuan Dan first appeared in the world of cultivation, it earned a very loud and evil name. It was called the Instant Explosion Dan. From the appearance of the Instant Yuan pill, it was very similar to other elixirs used to restore vital essence. Generally, alchemists who were below the master level, if their cultivation had not reached the middle stage of the core forging stage, and they did not have one or two rare elixir appraisal techniques in the alchemy world, it was generally difficult to distinguish the Instant Yuan pill from the ordinary elixirs like the Spirit Recovery pill and the like. This was already the case for alchemists, let alone other cultivators. Alchemists relied on their huge divine will and other secret techniques that could only be mastered by grandmaster alchemists. Naturally, they could distinguish the elixirs from the ordinary elixirs. Lu Ping had once learned the elixir appraisal technique from Tianwu Laozu when he asked for the purple crystal royal jelly from him. Thus, when Tianwu Laozu took out the Instant Yuan pill, Lu Ping also recognized this famous elixir. After that, when a Dharma adept was about to receive his own calamity and was preparing to break through to the middle Dharma stage, in a panic, he mistakenly consumed the Instant Yuan pill as an elixir used to restore vital essence. Just as the Dharma adept was about to close his eyes and await his death from the sudden explosion of the inner Yuan in his veins, an unparalleled amount of inner Yuan that was under the adept's control instantly filled the cultivator's veins. The self-destruction that the adept had imagined did not happen. Overjoyed, this Laozu did not bother to check what was going on and hurriedly focused all his energy on dealing with the lightning tribulation. The lightning tribulation, which was originally hopeless, had been overcome by this Laozu in one fell swoop and became a mid-Dharma adept. After that, the elder ancestor took another instant explosion elixir. Only then did he realize that for Dharma adepts, the instantaneous explosion of inner Yuan from the instant explosion elixir was the best medicine for Dharma adepts to recover their inner Yuan. Hence, the instant explosion elixir was also known as the instant Yuan elixir and was only used by Dharma adepts. It was just that although the Instant Yuan pill had the effect of instantly restoring the vital essence of a Dharma adept, the vital essence that it exploded out was after all not formed by the adept's own body bit by bit. Furthermore, it was too violent. Every pill that was consumed was a form of damage to the adept's veins. Hence, it was fine to consume one or two of these elixirs. For a Dharma adept's remarkable level of practice, it would only take a few days for him to recover. However, for Celestial Phenomenon Laozu, to consume 6 Instant Yuan pills in one go was undoubtedly an act of harming oneself. Even if Celestial Phenomenon Laozu survived the lightning tribulation of the mid-Dharma stage and became a great Dharma adept, the damage to the veins in his body would be too severe and would not be able to support his level of practice any further. Just as Lu Ping was using his own vital essence to resist the terrifying aura emanating from Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's body, a small portion of the mysterious qi that surrounded Celestial Phenomenon Laozu took the opportunity to break free from his restraints. Following the path of Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's terrifying aura, it attacked Lu Ping's body. This mysterious qi was the pure yang qi that was formed from the lightning tribulation. When Lu Ping used all his strength to resist the impact of the aura, causing his vital essence to leak out, this pure yang qi followed Lu Ping's vital essence and invaded his veins. In an instant, Lu Ping's vital essence arrived, and a warm and gentle aura flowed through his veins towards his heart core. Everywhere the pure yang qi passed by, Lu Ping felt an indescribable sense of comfort engulfing his entire body. He felt as though he was floating in the air. And as the pure yang qi passed by, Lu Ping felt as though an indescribable type of true energy was born in his veins. This type of true energy contained an unfathomable might, allowing Lu Ping's cultivation base to instantly rise to a height where he could look down on all living beings in the cultivation world. The pure yang qi got closer and closer to Lu Ping's heart core. Lu Ping had a feeling that as long as he allowed this pure yang qi to remain in his heart core, he would immediately be able to welcome the opportunity to break through to the next level. Could this be the great opportunity that celestial phenomenon Laozu had repeatedly mentioned? The pure yang qi flowed through all the veins in his body and slowly approached his heart core from all directions. However, deep down, Lu Ping felt that this opportunity seemed to have arrived too easily. The pure yang qi flowed through his veins and into his heart core, finally bombarding Lu Ping's heart core. With a boom, Lu Ping's heart core suddenly shook, and Lu Ping suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. The Jindan floating in the middle of his heart space suddenly began to beat violently. The white jade lotus, which was located below the Jindan, suddenly shone brightly the moment the Jindan beat. The 12 gentian pearls emitted 5-colored rays of light, revolving around the Jindan even more vigorously. Dong, dong, dong. From the very beginning, the Jindan's beating frequency matched the beating of his heart. A loud heartbeat rang out from Lu Ping's body like a huge bell, directly pouring into Lu Ping's divine sense. For a moment, Lu Ping felt as if his heart was about to jump out of his chest. As the Jindan kept shaking in his heart core, the 6 strange dragons, which were originally lazy on the surface of the Jindan, suddenly shook. Then, with extreme anger, they raised their heads to the sky and let out a long cry that only Lu Ping could hear. Then, the 6 strange dragons quickly hovered on the surface of Lu Ping's Jindan. Waves of anxiety and fear were transmitted directly into Lu Ping's divine sense through the long cry and into Lu Ping's ears. All of a sudden, Lu Ping felt as if he had just woken up from a long dream. When he woke up, he was immediately surrounded by a burning pain all over his body. Bean-sized beads of sweat had already seeped out of Lu Ping's forehead. His clothes had long been soaked in water. Bursts of tearing pain came from his divine sense. Enduring the pain, Lu Ping used all of his divine sense to check his body. In an instant, he was so frightened by the situation in his body that his face turned pale. Unknowingly, invisible flames had been ignited in Lu Ping's blood vessels. This kind of flame did not cause any harm to Lu Ping's blood vessels. However, it used the true essence contained in Lu Ping's blood vessels as fuel. Unknowingly, the true essence condensed in Lu Ping's blood vessels had been burned into nothingness. The invisible flames also burned along the blood vessels to the periphery of the heart core space. When it intended to penetrate into the heart core space, the Jindan, which felt a fatal threat, finally struggled to break free from the illusion of Lu Ping. The North Sea wave listening method that Lu Ping cultivated was an extremely mysterious water attribute cultivation method. The water attribute true essence cultivated by this cultivation method was far purer and richer than cultivators of the same level. This was a cultivation method that had an extremely strong restraining effect on any fire attribute cultivation method or even fire attribute spiritual objects. Especially after Lu Ping fused with the Xinyuan heavy water, this function of Lu Ping's cultivation method appeared to be even more tyrannical. Even without Lyra Laozu's knowledge, Lu Ping had secretly compared it with the 7-colored flame that Lyra Laozu had sent out. Even though Lu Ping had spent a great deal of effort to finally annihilate this flame that did not have the support of Lyra Laozu's true essence, this was after all a spiritual fire that had barely reached the power of a mid-grade heaven stage spiritual fire. However, Lu Ping's true essence had an extremely obvious restraining effect on this inferior spiritual fire. However, at this moment, the true essence remaining in Lu Ping's blood vessels had been burned to nothing by this mysterious invisible fire. How could this not make Lu Ping feel horrified? Lu Ping had cultivated for nearly 100 years, and had experienced life and death several times. However, this time, he truly felt the call of death. However, what Lu Ping did not know when he was just charmed by this invisible fire was that it was not that Lu Ping's true essence did not have a restraining effect on this invisible fire, but that this restraining effect was much smaller than the 7-colored flame. Fortunately, Lu Ping's true essence was far different from ordinary people. Otherwise, before Lu Ping could wake up, the invisible fire would have long burned into the core space. In a state of shock, Lu Ping used all his strength to stimulate the true essence in his body. However, his blood vessels were empty. Where was there any true essence? Bursts of burning pain came from the core space, and the Jindan in the space throbbed even more violently. In a state of shock and anger, Lu Ping could not care less. The North Sea Wave listening technique was instantly reversed, and a secret technique was immediately displayed by Lu Ping. The Jindan trembled violently, and the 6 strange dragons opened their mouths at the same time. 6 streams of origin blood mist were spat out, diffusing around the Jindan. Then, they turned into waves of extremely pure blue-red true essence. They suddenly penetrated through the core space and forced the pure yang qi that was approaching the core space out of his heart in one fell swoop. Lu Ping took the opportunity to take a deep breath. Ignoring his pale face, the 6 strange dragons in the core space once again spat out 6 streams of origin blood mist. After they seeped out of the core space, they converged with the previous true essence and surrounded the invisible flame formed by the pure yang qi. After taking turns to attack the flame, in just a moment, the flame was finally annihilated by Lu Ping's purest yuan qi in the Jindan. However, before Lu Ping could feel happy, the invisible flame gathered from the other blood vessels had also approached the core space. Lu Ping looked at the remaining 11 flames gathering aggressively. Lu Ping did not have time to smile bitterly and be depressed. The 6 strange dragons spat out 6 streams of origin blood mist for the 3rd time. Lu Ping's pale face had already turned gray. The blood mist turned into true essence, but it only had time to form a true essence barrier around the core space with the previous true essence source. Although this barrier had temporarily withstood the attack of the 11 invisible flames, it was only a matter of time before it was broken. Looking at the 6 strange dragons on the surface of the Jindan, which had already become weak, Lu Ping felt that if he spat out the origin blood mist again, even if it did not damage Lu Ping's extremely solid foundation, it was very likely that Lu Ping's cultivation would drop from the 6th stage of the core forging stage to the 5th stage at the cost of killing one of the strange dragons. Just when Lu Ping was at a loss of what to do and was ready to stake everything on the fallen monster Jiao Dragon, countless runes suddenly flashed on the surface of the 9th grade white jade lotus floating below the golden core. Countless indistinct true essence threads shot out from the surface of the white jade lotus, complementing the 5-colored light emitted by the 12 origin Qin beads. At the same time, the true essence threads intertwined with the golden core to form a huge 3-dimensional array formation. Lu Ping was pleasantly surprised when he saw this. Lu Ping's Gentian Great Array had already been refined with the 12 Gentian beads, and the grade 9 white jade lotus had been refined into an array diagram. However, for some unknown reason, Lu Ping was unable to connect this set of great array. When Lu Ping used it, the Gentian beads could still only be used by themselves, and the grade 9 white jade lotus could only be used by Lu Ping as an excellent defensive magic treasure. However, at the moment when Lu Ping's life was at stake, the two suddenly connected smoothly. The Gentian Great Array was completed. After the Gentian Great Array was successfully connected, the magic treasure that Lu Ping had been searching for many years finally took shape. The 12 Gentian beads and the grade 9 white jade lotus, which had been nurtured by Lu Ping for many years, suddenly released a trickle of pure true essence. This true essence was all condensed by Lu Ping himself over the past few decades. As the true essence gathered towards the gold core, it was also constantly condensing. In the end, it turned into tiny wisps of blood mist that were sucked into the stomachs of the 6 strange dragons. The originally dim gold core finally shone with a dazzling golden light once again. Outside the core space, the source barrier that was on the verge of collapse due to the remaining 11 invisible flames was on the verge of collapse. The moment the Great Array was formed, the projection of the Great Gentian Great Array suddenly appeared inside the barrier. Strong true essence seeped out of the core space and supported the barrier. With the support of the projection of the Great Array, Lu Ping finally completely blocked the 11 invisible flames outside the core space. Finally relieved of the crisis, Lu Ping's life was temporarily spared. If he couldn't completely refine or expel the 11 invisible flames, then Lu Ping's cultivation could only be trapped in the core space. In this way, there was no difference between Lu Ping's cultivation being completely destroyed. After receiving the true essence from the Great Array, Lu Ping once again made up his mind to take a risk. 6 wisps of blood mist once again seeped out of the gold core and moved towards the barrier formed by the Gentian Great Array outside the core space. While Lu Ping's heart trembled in fear, the 6th strange jiao that had just formed on the fallen islands flickered. It was just a hair's breadth away from disappearing. Then, the strange jiao withered and hid in a corner of the golden core, motionless. It was as if the slightest touch would cause the illusory strange jiao to vanish into thin air. Seeing that the 6th strange dragon hadn't disappeared, Lu Ping let out a long sigh of relief. His core forging stage, 6th layer cultivation, was finally preserved. However, with the support of this mouthful of primordial blood mist condensed from the essence of Xinyuan heavy water, the small natal primordial formation that was formed outside the core space finally had enough energy to separate one of the invisible flames from the other 11. Then, a petal on the white jade lotus in the core space suddenly flashed with a ray of light. The lotus projection in the small Gentian Great Array also flashed. At the same time, the 3 origin time beads formed a triangle, surrounding the isolated formless flame in the middle. The 5-colored light emitted by the 3 origin time beads firmly enveloped the formless flame. By the time the light dissipated, the formless flame had already disappeared without a trace. Overjoyed, Lu Ping used the same method to refine the other invisible flames one by one. When the last flame was refined, Lu Ping could finally relax. After Lu Ping retracted the origin barrier around his heart core space, the previously assembled origin barrier didn't turn back into a blood mist and return to his golden core. Instead, it turned into 13 equal portions of origin primordial essence that fused with the 12 origin Chen beads and the white jade lotus. Just when Lu Ping was a little puzzled, a small gourd suddenly sprang out from a secluded corner of the core space. The gourd rotated in the air above the 13 sources of true essence, and a wisp of invisible yet substantial aura emerged from each of the 13 sources of true essence. The aura then disappeared into the mouth of the gourd, and the gourd immediately fled into the core space. Chapter 583. The barrier did not return to the golden core. Instead, it split into 13 parts and was divided by the 12 gentian beads and the rank 9 white jade lotus. Lu Ping frowned. His divine sense circled back and forth in the core space. Everything inside was naturally clear to him. Soon, Lu Ping found something special hidden in the 13 parts of the primordial qi. After the 12 invisible flames were destroyed by Lu Ping's gentian formation, only 12 invisible streams of qi were left and integrated into the primordial qi. Lu Ping's intuition told him that this should be pure yang qi that had been refined, but he did not dare to absorb it. He could only let the gentian beads and the white jade lotus divide the qi into 13 parts and absorb them separately. However, to Lu Ping's surprise, the 7 treasures thunder calabash suddenly appeared. Although it did not intercept the primordial qi, it still extracted a trace of the qi from each part of the primordial qi. This caused Lu Ping's gentian formation to lose a trace of the qi. How could Lu Ping's magic treasures be willing to accept this? In Lu Ping's moment of crisis, it was the gentian formation that rescued Lu Ping. The 7 treasures thunder calabash had been hiding in the corner of the core space. It was really unreasonable for it to come out at this time. Lu Ping's natal mystic artifact was originally centered around the golden core. It revolved around the golden core in a rhythmic pattern, and when the golden core breathed in and out, it could also be tempered by the golden core. However, at this moment, the origin time bead and white jade lotus simultaneously broke free of the golden core's encirclement. A sparkling and translucent white pillar of light suddenly shot out from the center of the flower refined by white jade, instantly freezing the flying 7 treasure lightning calabash in midair. The lightning 7 treasures calabash abruptly spat out a ball of lightning from its mouth, smashing the white pillar of light into pieces. However, in that instant, the 12 origin Chan beads caught up to it, and surrounded the lightning seven treasures calabash. As the multicolored light flickered, it formed a crystalline multicolored space. The lightning seven treasures calabash struggled left and right within it, but it was unable to charge out. The white jade lotus also floated in the void and flew towards the 12 gentian beads. Once the white jade lotus arrived, the gentian formation would be completed and the seven treasures thunder calabash would have no hope of breaking out. A deep purple lightning suddenly began to brew in the mouth of the calabash. Seeing that Lu Ping's magic treasures were about to fight over a strange aura, Lu Ping suddenly snorted. The golden core floating in the center of the core space suddenly jumped up. The gentian formation seemed to have received a summon and immediately released the seal on the seven treasures thunder calabash. It quickly returned to the side of the golden core and began to help the golden core absorb the yuan qi of heaven and earth to restore Lu Ping's nearly drained yuan qi. The seven treasures thunder calabash also slowly flew towards the golden core. However, unlike the close relationship between the gentian formation and Lu Ping's golden core, the seven treasures thunder calabash hid far away and even began to revolve around the golden core outside of the golden scale sword. After the seven treasures thunder calabash began to revolve around the golden core, the amount of yuan qi it absorbed was extremely small. However, there were many sparks of lightning flashing in the mouth of the calabash. Clearly, after the golden core had suppressed the turmoil in the core space, the seven treasures thunder calabash began to speed up the digestion of the mysterious qi in order to prevent the magic treasures of the gentian formation from attacking it again. Lu Ping's divine sense had been watching everything that was happening in the core space. When he saw the seven treasures thunder calabash begin to absorb the pure yang qi that Lu Ping had refined with the life origin formation, Lu Ping's heart moved, but he did not stop it. Lu Ping's divine sense carefully examined the body of the seven treasures thunder calabash. However, to Lu Ping's surprise, the seven treasures thunder calabash did not absorb a part of the refined pure yang qi. There was even a broken rune on the surface of the seven treasures thunder calabash. This could not help but make Lu Ping very disappointed. Could it be that the harmless pure yang qi had no use at all? But why did the seven treasures thunder calabash and the gentian formation fight so fiercely for it? Just as Lu Ping was hesitating whether to let the gentian bead and the level 9 white jade lotus begin to absorb the trace of pure yang qi, the seven treasures thunder calabash suddenly shook, and from the mouth of the calabash, a purple aura suddenly spat out. The moment this purple aura was spat out, the golden core in the core space suddenly acted like a great white shark that smelled blood. The 6 strange flood dragons on the surface of the golden core swept away their previous decadent state. The 6 flood dragons each opened their mouths to release a suction force towards this purple aura. This purple aura was suddenly divided into 6 thinner filaments and was sucked into the mouth of the 6 flood dragons. After the golden core, which had just begun to recover, received this purple aura, suddenly a purer and more vigorous Zhenyuan than the Zhenyuan that Lu Ping had lost suddenly flowed into the golden core. The Zhenyuan that the golden core had lost was suddenly replenished by a third. The originally dim golden core suddenly shone with a golden light, and in the middle of the golden light, there was also a layer of misty purple qi. Lu Ping was overjoyed. With a thought, the 12 gentian beads quickly and completely absorbed the refined pure yang qi. 12 wisps of purple aura that were slightly smaller than the previous aura, but of the same quality, came out of the gentian bead and gathered towards the 6 strange flood dragons on the surface of the golden core. Previously, Lu Ping had continuously spat out his primordial essence and quickly recovered. A faint, purplish-golden cloud gradually appeared around his golden core as part of the primordial essence flowed back into his bloodline. His already empty bloodline was instantly filled with primordial essence again. Not only that, Lu Ping's blue primordial essence became even purer. The blue primordial essence that was constantly circulating in his bloodline was now tinged with a faint purplish hue. Even Lu Ping's bright red blood had changed a little. Looking at the grade 9 white jade lotus floating below the golden core, Lu Ping hesitated for a moment. Finally, he clenched his teeth and let the white jade lotus absorb the pure yang qi. The grade 9 white jade lotus was of extremely high quality, and it was the most important magic treasure in Lu Ping's Gentian formation. When the pure yang qi was evenly divided, the grade 9 white jade lotus received the most. Therefore, after absorbing the pure yang qi, the grade 9 white jade lotus's heart gathered a dense purple mist. Then, a bluish-purple Zhen Yuan that was even more vigorous than the 7 treasure thunder calabashes Zhen Yuan slowly seeped into the golden core from the outside. The 6 strange flood dragons happily swam on the surface of the golden core. Every time the 6 strange flood dragons circled around the golden core would grow in Lu Ping's divine sense. After the 6 strange flood dragons circled the golden core 6 times, Lu Ping's golden core had also grown by 6 times. It had been less than a year since Lu Ping broke through to the 6th stage of core forging in the Fallen Secret Land. During this time, Lu Ping didn't have the time to completely consolidate his cultivation. He could only take time out of his free time to cultivate in seclusion for 10 days to half a month before being delayed by various matters. As a result, Lu Ping's 6th-layer core forging realm cultivation base had yet to be fully consolidated. This was also why Lu Ping's golden core was in danger of collapsing the 6th strange flood dragon and falling back to the 5th-layer core forging realm after spitting out a few mouthfuls of primordial essence. However, after the grade 9 white jade lotus's purple Zhen Yuan was absorbed by the golden core, Lu Ping's 6th-stage core forging cultivation was completely consolidated. He no longer had to worry about the danger of his cultivation falling back to the 6th stage. Not only that, but Lu Ping's 6th-stage core forging cultivation had also greatly increased. Lu Ping could even vaguely see the threshold of the peak of the 6th-stage core forging. Lu Ping repeatedly circulated the North Sea Wave listening mantra. Although he discovered that the convergence of the Zhen Yuan didn't cause Lu Ping's cultivation to collapse due to the rapid increase, Lu Ping still felt a little apprehensive in his heart. His cultivation had always been obtained through hard work. This time, after fusing with the refined pure yang qi, Lu Ping's 6th-stage core forging cultivation had greatly increased. It almost saved Lu Ping 10 years of hard work. Although this harvest was obtained after Lu Ping took a trip to the gates of hell, Lu Ping still couldn't accept it as a matter of course. Just as the 7 treasures Thundergourd and the Life Gentian formation gathered the essence of the pure yang qi into the golden core, Lu Ping felt that the magic treasure, the 7 treasures Thundergourd, and the golden core once again formed a mysterious connection. This connection used the refined pure yang qi as a medium, and the connection between the 3 became even closer. To be more precise, the golden core's control over the 2 magic treasures became more smooth. The previous competition between the 7 treasures Thundergourd and the Life Gentian formation for the pure yang qi would no longer happen. Lu Ping, who couldn't figure out his own condition, was anxious and worried. But there was nothing he could do. He could only temporarily give up on investigating his own condition and refocus his attention on the Tian Xiang Grand Ancestor. At the moment when the bottom of the dark clouds hung down, the lightning ball finally reached saturation. It broke away from the shackles of the dark clouds and fell towards celestial phenomenon Laozu. Looking at the lightning ball that was constantly changing shape like a water ball, celestial phenomenon Laozu threw his head back and laughed. At this moment, the giant ape floating above his head seemed to have recovered its previous ferocity. It raised its head and roared at the lightning ball that was falling, then suddenly plunged towards celestial phenomenon Laozu below. At the same time, a spirit demon peach was selected by celestial phenomenon Laozu, then turned into a ball of yuan qi that flowed like water, leaving only a peach pit in Lu Ping's hand. When the giant ape jumped down from midair, its huge body constantly shrank. By the time the giant ape pounced in front of celestial phenomenon Laozu, it had already shrunk to the size of celestial phenomenon Laozu. Celestial phenomenon Laozu pointed at the giant ape and shouted in the air, "Transform." The giant ape suddenly seemed to turn into a stream of water, covering celestial phenomenon Laozu's body. A moment later, celestial phenomenon Laozu himself turned into the size of the giant ape. Chapter 584. If there were any other Dharma adepts around, they would definitely exclaim, "Dharma power possession?" This was a technique that was extremely famous among the Dharma adepts, but it was also extremely difficult to master. The Dharma adepts who were able to master this technique were all powerful cultivators of the same level as them. It was a pity that Lu Ping did not recognize this technique, so he was only a little surprised. Just as Celestial Laozu transformed into a giant ape, the huge amount of Yuan Qi from the spirit demon peaches was instantly absorbed by the Dharma ape. Lu Ping's eyes flashed with a green light, and he saw dozens of cracks on the giant ape's body. These cracks were scattered all over Celestial Laozu's Dharma power. This was the result of Celestial Laozu's physical body being injured. After the Yuan Qi from the spirit demon peaches was absorbed by the Dharma ape, the dozens of cracks began to heal at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. Lu Ping knew that this was only a temporary measure. Celestial Laozu's physical injuries had not yet healed, but were just barely glued together, so it would not be a burden to him for the time being. However, this was enough. The seventh lightning tribulation had been brewing for a long time, and it was like a ball of viscous liquid that fell on Celestial Laozu's body. Celestial Laozu had no way to avoid it, and his entire Dharma power was submerged in the viscous lightning. The green light in Lu Ping's eyes was activated to the extreme, but he could only see a blurry figure struggling left and right in this ball of lightning, unable to break free. Clouds of golden smoke rose from the thunderball. This was the true Yuan mist that the celestial myriad ancestor had attached to the surface of his body. It had been worn down by the lightning and turned into clouds of Zhen Yuan mist, which then came out from the thunderball. The roars of the Dharma idol great ape could be heard from within the thunderball. Lu Ping was anxious and wanted to use the Sanqing true pupils to take a closer look. However, a dazzling lightning suddenly exploded from within the thunderball. Lu Ping's eyes were stung by the lightning. Lu Ping's eyes turned black and tears blurred his eyes. It took a long time for him to slowly recover. Lu Ping had a lingering fear in his heart. He no longer dared to use the true pupils of the three pure ones to observe the situation inside the thunderball. At this moment, a crisp sound rang out from within the lightning ball, as though something had been pierced through. Lu Ping's heart tightened as he heard the muffled groan of Celestial Phenomenon Laozu from within the lightning ball. The pained howls of the Dharma idol giant ape could no longer be heard. Lu Ping's countenance changed. This was the manifestation of Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's Dharma idol innate technique being broken apart by the lightning. At this moment, Lu Ping finally understood what his teacher, Lu Tianling, meant when she said that the strengthening of one's physical body was extremely important for a Dharma manifestation stage cultivator to survive a tribulation. At this moment, Lu Ping's physical body was equivalent to a mid-tier magic item. Once he filled his entire body with true Yuan, Lu Ping's physical body would not be any weaker than a normal defensive magic item. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's physical body had been nourished by spiritual energy for hundreds of years. Even if he didn't take any pills to strengthen his physical body would still be stronger than Lu Ping's. Furthermore, how could Celestial Phenomenon Laozu not have taken such pills before? At least, Lu Ping knew that the golden nut he handed over back then had been refined into a golden tough pill by Fornax Laozu and sent to Celestial Phenomenon Laozu. Just as Lu Ping could only watch Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's situation getting worse and worse, he couldn't help in the slightest. Lu Ping's brows furrowed again. His divine will swept across the space in his heart core. This time, it was still the Thunder Seven Treasures Gourd that was causing trouble. Sensing the restlessness of the Thunder Seven Treasures Gourd, Lu Ping actually felt a kind of desire from it. It was a desire for the countless flashes of lightning outside. What did it desire? Could it be that it wanted to swallow the lightning? What kind of joke was this? This was the tribulation of a mid-Dharma adept. How could a magic item that had just condensed 3 treasures be able to withstand it? Even if it was the number 1 divine weapon in the world of practitioners, it was still just an embryo that had yet to take shape. If it were to be released, before it could even come into contact with the lightning tribulation, it would be destroyed by the residual power of the lightning tribulation. But then, Lu Ping remembered that the 7 Treasures Thunder Calabash had helped him escape from Yuan Feixiang's lightning tracking technique. It was the 7 Treasures Thunder Calabash that devoured the weakened lightning tracking technique. Moreover, The Thunder 7 Treasures gourd had the word thunder in it. It was originally famous for its lightning powers in the world of practitioners. Perhaps the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd could really have a certain impact on the lightning tribulation of a practitioner. But would this impact be good or bad? Lu Ping did not dare to take this risk. The biggest taboo in the world of practitioners was to prevent others from achieving the Tao. Don't look at how Lu Ping was valued by celestial phenomenon Laozu. As the inheritor of his legacy after his death, Lu Ping had also given the spirit demon peach to celestial phenomenon Laozu to help him heal his physical injuries. But if Lu Ping really threatened celestial phenomenon Laozu's tribulation, whether it was good or bad, celestial phenomenon Laozu would immediately kill Lu Ping to ensure that his tribulation went smoothly. After that, Jinling would never blame celestial phenomenon Laozu for Lu Ping's death. Even his teacher Lu Tianling could only swallow his anger. Just when Lu Ping had made up his mind to suppress the unstable Thunder 7 Treasures gourd in his core space, the surface of the lightning ball that surrounded celestial phenomenon Laozu suddenly exploded with lightning. It went straight for Lu Ping's chest. Lu Ping was so scared that his whole body trembled. He turned around and wanted to escape. However, this lightning seemed to have locked onto Lu Ping's heart and went straight for Lu Ping's back. Although Lu Ping tried his best to escape, how could his escape technique compare to the lightning flash? With a crisp crackle, the lightning struck Lei Guang's body, shattering Lu Ping's 6 layers of protective astral energy. Lu Ping didn't have time to cast the water control flag when a small golden gourd the size of a palm suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's back. The lightning fell on Lu Ping's back. Before it hit, the mouth of the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd suddenly produced an invisible whirlpool. The lightning was inexplicably swallowed by the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd. Lu Ping was still in shock. He grabbed the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd in his hand, but he was immediately electrocuted by the lightning sparks on the surface of the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd. Lu Ping's palm flashed with purple true essence. This true essence was attached to his hand, isolating the power of the lightning. Only then did Lu Ping feel relieved and use his spiritual sense to observe the situation of the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd. At this time, the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd was like a child that didn't know how to be full. Seeing the food it liked, it just kept stuffing it into its mouth. It didn't care how much food its small appetite could hold. Every moment, the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd would spit out a burst of sparks, as if it was burping due to indigestion. Every time this happened, the lightning on the surface of the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd would flash. Lu Ping had no choice but to increase the control of his true essence. After repeating this process 9 times, the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd finally seemed to have digested the lightning tribulation and calmed down. The original purple surface of the gourd seemed to be dyed with a faint layer of red. Lu Ping's spiritual sense entered the gourd and found that outside of the 3 treasured restrictions, a rune that had been formed due to the devouring of Yuan's lightning tribulation had changed again, and this time the change was more obvious. From this rune, a new rune slowly extended. Although the 2 runes were not the same, for Lu Ping, who had studied the mysterious purple jade slip of Fei Ling sect, it was very easy for him to see that these runes belonged to the 2 basic runes that formed a complete restriction. The Thunder 7 Treasures gourd trembled slightly in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping seemed to feel a kind of anticipation and excitement from the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd. Lu Ping looked at Tian Xiang Laozu, who was still struggling in the Thunderball. After a moment, Lu Ping finally made a decision. His hands formed a series of hand signs, and a strong amount of true yuan gushed out from Lu Ping's hands, forming a long true yuan rope in the air. One end of this true yuan rope was firmly tied to the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd, and the other end was tightly held in Lu Ping's hand. Thinking that he was ready, Lu Ping once again slowly returned in the direction of the Thunderball. Lu Ping gently moved the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd in the direction of Tian Xiang Laozu, and the true yuan rope in his hand tightened. Just when the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd was only 3 feet away from the Thunderball, a huge suction force suddenly came from the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd. However, the Thunderball remained motionless. Instead, the Thunder 7 Treasures gourd was pulled towards the Thunderball because of its own suction force. Lu Ping quickly pulled back the true yuan rope in his hand, and the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd stopped. Lu Ping felt a huge force suddenly pass through the true yuan rope, and Lu Ping's body was pulled forward. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pushed forward, and a powerful current appeared out of thin air, pushing Lu Ping in the opposite direction of the Thunder Gourd. Lu Ping finally stopped the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd 3 feet away from the Thunder Ball. At that moment, a bolt of lightning that was about the same size as the previous bolt of lightning separated from the ball of lightning and flew towards the mouth of the lightning calabash. After the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd swallowed the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd, and although it still made the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd burp, the speed at which it swallowed was undoubtedly faster than before. Lu Ping saw that this method was effective, so he pulled the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd from the outside, and it began to revolve around the thunder ball that was wrapped around Tianxiang Laozu. From time to time, 1 or 2 thunder lights would be separated from the thunder ball and swallowed by the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd. As the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd swallowed more and more thunder lights, the swallowing process became faster and faster. In Lu Ping's divine sense, every time a thunder light was swallowed by the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd, rune would appear on the surface of the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd. As the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd swallowed more and more thunder lights, the runes on the surface of the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd would gradually form into a complete spirit summoning seal. After the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd separated 36 thunder lights from the thunder ball, the 36 runes on the Thunder's 7 treasures gourd surface immediately connected to form a complete spirit summoning seal. Chapter 585. This natural treasure formed by the lightning tribulation was a spiritual treasure that was in line with the 7 treasure thunder gourd. The 7 treasure thunder gourd was also successfully promoted to a spiritual treasure by this treasure. The ball of lightning that had been separated from the 36 lightning bolts had also completely shrunk. At this time, a scarlet red light suddenly emerged from the center of the ball of lightning. Seeing this, Lu Ping quickly withdrew with the 7 treasure thunder gourd. At this time, the thunder ball had already been severely weakened. Under such circumstances, Lu Ping's control over the 7 treasures thunder gourd was no longer effective. The true essence rope in Lu Ping's hand easily pulled the 7 treasures thunder gourd far away from the thunder ball. The scarlet red light in the ball of lightning grew stronger and stronger as time passed. In the end, the scarlet red light almost dyed half of the ball of lightning. With a loud bang, the condensed ball of lightning exploded. The scarlet light expanded from the exploded ball of lightning and then quickly shrank back. The exploding thunder ball turned into countless lightning bolts that wreaked havoc in all directions, turning the surrounding area of several hundred feet into a field of lightning. At this time, Lu Ping had already taken the 7 treasure thunder gourd and hid a few hundred feet away. Because the raging lightning had been dispersed, the ground around it was ravaged into a mess and finally dissipated. The long 7th lightning tribulation was finally overcome by celestial phenomenon Laozu. The amount of pure yang qi that was born from the tribulation lightning that had almost burned out Lu Ping's Zhen Yuan had doubled in the moment the 7th lightning tribulation disappeared. After the scarlet light shrank, the celestial phenomenon patriarch, who had an old face and white hair, was revealed from within. Celestial phenomenon Laozu turned to look at Lu Ping in the distance. His eyes were fixed on the 7 treasure thunder gourd floating above Lu Ping's head. From time to time, the mouth of the gourd was still flashing with sparks. 7 treasure thunder gourd? Although celestial phenomenon Laozu's face was full of doubt, his mouth had already cried out in surprise. How many more secrets did this disciple have that no one knew about? Celestial phenomenon Laozu had a complicated expression on his face as he looked at the 7 treasures lightning gourd revolving above Lu Ping's head. A hint of envy flashed in his eyes as he smiled and said, "Old man, why did the power of the 7th tribulation lightning suddenly drop so much and was so easily broken by the old man? So it turns out that you have such a divine artifact in your hands." Lu Ping embarrassedly smiled and said, "This disciple was too rash. I hope Marshal Granduncle won't blame me." This disciple didn't know that the 7-treasure thunder calabash had the ability to weaken the lightning tribulation. It was only because this disciple discovered that the 7-treasure thunder calabash revealed a desire to devour the lightning tribulation that disciple dared to give it a try. Fortunately, this disciple was lucky enough to succeed. Otherwise, if Marshall Granduncle's tribulation was delayed, this disciple wouldn't be able to redeem myself even if I died 100 times. Celestial phenomenon Laozu laughed and said, "Could this be the will of the heavens? Does the heavens want the old man to pass this tribulation of the mid-dharma stage and revitalize our sect?" A high-spirited aura emanated from celestial phenomenon Laozu's body. This wasn't the kind of oppressive and ferocious aura from before. Instead, it was a kind of arrogant aura, a kind of self-confidence that made people feel as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. At this moment, celestial phenomenon Laozu felt as though his cultivation level had risen by a level. Only then did he turn his head and say to Lu Ping, "The 7-treasure thunder calabash is known as the #1 divine treasure in the cultivation world. It has always been passed down in the Kuan clan of the demon race and the Yuan aristocrat clan of the human race. But in these tens of thousands of years, other than the 7-treasure thunder calabash in Laozu's hands, there has never been another divine treasure that could truly refine it to a higher level, reproducing the glory of the #1 divine treasure in the cultivation world." Celestial phenomenon Laozu paused for a moment and looked up at the sky. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky began to revolve around the head of celestial phenomenon Laozu, gradually forming a huge funnel. At the front of the funnel, a huge and sharp awl-like tip slowly pierced down towards celestial phenomenon Laozu's head. Celestial phenomenon Laozu didn't seem to care at all. He continued to say to Lu Ping, "The old man doesn't wish to ask too much about the origins of this 7-treasure thunder calabash. It's just that if this item is seen by the Kuan clan or the Yuan aristocrat clan, it will definitely cause a huge dispute. Hence, regarding the use of this item, it's best that you be cautious." Lu Ping forced a smile. "Although this lightning calabash was obtained by this disciple by chance, I don't have the method to refine it. From what Senior Granduncle said, in the future, if this disciple wants to upgrade this lightning calabash, I can only place my attention on these 2 clans." Celestial phenomenon Laozu shook his head. "It's better for you to make the decision on this matter. However, if you really want to upgrade the 7-treasure thunder calabash, this old man suggests that you wait until your cultivation base reaches a certain level before you go after these 2 clans. These 2 clans have existed for tens of thousands of years and are known as the direct descendants of Great Rock Laozu. Their experts are as many as the clouds. It's not easy to obtain them." What celestial phenomenon Laozu didn't know was that the 7-treasure thunder calabash could absorb tribulation lightning to form a defensive treasure, allowing it to upgrade its own grade. At this moment, the 8th bolt of tribulation lightning was like a long sword hanging over celestial phenomenon Laozu's head, ready to fall at any moment. The 2nd spirit demon peach in celestial phenomenon Laozu's hand suddenly caved in, leaving behind only a thin layer of peach skin and a peach pit. The flesh inside had already been transformed into yuan qi and absorbed by celestial phenomenon Laozu. Lu Ping kept the peach pit as usual. Although the pit of the spirit demon peach tree was no longer the spirit demon peach tree, if it could be successfully planted, then the new peach tree would definitely not be an ordinary tree. Whether it was the peach tree as a spiritual material or the peach fruit as a spiritual medicine, although it couldn't be compared to the spirit demon peach tree or the spirit demon peach tree, it was still a considerable cultivation resource. Not to mention, these things could be cultivated repeatedly. At this time, celestial phenomenon Laozu's fleshly body was already riddled with scars. The 2nd spirit demon peach tree only healed half of the scars on his body, and the remaining yuan qi was quickly refined by celestial phenomenon Laozu to replenish the lost gen yuan. Lu Ping touched the storage ring on his hand, thinking about whether he should take out another 2 spirit demon peaches, but after thinking about it, Lu Ping put his hand down. If Lu Ping took out the spirit demon peaches a second time, then at least he would have a reason to hide it. But if he took out the spirit demon peaches a third time, then the fact that Lu Ping had a spirit demon peach tree would no longer be able to be hidden. When celestial phenomenon Laozu destroyed the 7th lightning tribulation, The Dharma idol that celestial phenomenon Laozu possessed had already been destroyed to the point that only a huge ape head was left on its head, a red ape buttocks, and a long ape tail was left on the buttocks. The rest of the body had already been struck into nothingness by the lightning. At this moment, the remaining 3 parts of celestial phenomenon Laozu's Dharma idol were dyed with a layer of gold. At the same time, Lu Ping's divine sense could sense that the pure yang qi that had previously surrounded celestial phenomenon Laozu's body was slowly being injected into the remaining 3 parts of the Dharma idol. Although the pure yang qi was entering slowly, it was extremely stable. For some reason, Lu Ping's eyes seemed to blur. He discovered that the 3 parts of the Dharma idol had suddenly become more lively, as if they had been injected with life. After recovering slightly, celestial phenomenon Laozu kept the incomplete Dharma idol back into his core space. When he summoned it again, the Dharma idol had already transformed into a complete giant ape again. However, Lu Ping's eyes found many inharmonious aspects in this brand new Dharma idol. He felt that the lively ape head and tail were incompatible with the stiff body and limbs. A torrent of lightning liquid suddenly poured down from the tip of the slender funnel. It was like a giant sword formed from lightning, stabbing straight at the giant ape's head. The giant ape abruptly let out a loud roar as it spat out a stream of golden water from its mouth, which collided with the lightning-formed long sword. The golden stream of water was immediately scattered, flying in all directions. However, the giant ape opened its mouth and swallowed all of it. With just this attack, the golden color on the surface of the giant ape's body faded by another layer, and the scarlet fur on its body became even more luxuriant. The lightning sword was also smashed by the golden stream of water, dissipating into sparks of lightning in all directions and finally disappearing. However, this was only the beginning. Following that, the funnel-like tip of the dark cloud continued to stab out one giant lightning sword after another, slashing and stabbing at the Dharma idol that celestial phenomenon Laozu had transformed into. The power of the lightning sword slashed out from the dark cloud was getting stronger and stronger, and the frequency was getting higher and higher. However, celestial phenomenon Laozu's Dharma idol had no chance of dodging under the dark cloud funnel. It could only use its magic spells again and again to smash the lightning sword. The Dharma idol of the celestial phenomenon patriarch was gradually unable to withstand the slashes of the giant sword. From time to time, the power of the giant sword would scatter onto the Dharma idol of the celestial phenomenon patriarch, riddling it with holes. At this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck the long and slender wall of the dark cloud funnel from tens of feet away, cutting a gap in the dark cloud funnel in one fell swoop. This gap was only a very small flaw compared to the dark cloud funnel, but a palm-sized gourd suddenly aimed the mouth of the gourd at this gap. An unfathomable gravitational force was emitted from the 7 treasures thunder gourd, and the lightning that was originally pouring down along the funnel was suddenly sucked out of the gap by the thunder gourd. After this trace of tribulation lightning overflowed from the gap, it was quickly swallowed by the 7 treasures thunder gourd. Then, the thunder gourd shook again, and the 5th psychic treasure restriction began to form a shallow rune. Because of the lack of this trace of lightning, the power of each lightning sword was greatly reduced after it was formed. Celestial phenomenon Laozu, who was originally overwhelmed, could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Originally, if the 8th lightning tribulation continued like this, celestial phenomenon Laozu would be able to smoothly pass it by expending some of his inner yuan. However, just as the last few lightning swords fell, the 7 treasures thunder gourd reached its saturation point after absorbing 72 traces of lightning. The 5th psychic treasure restriction was completely completed, and the thunder gourd immediately stopped absorbing the lightning. The lightning swords immediately regained their previous power. Celestial phenomenon Laozu, who was caught off guard, had to open his mouth and spit out a mouthful of blood. Only then did he manage to block the last few lightning swords. The 8th lightning tribulation had passed, and it seemed that celestial phenomenon Laozu would soon become a Dharma adept. Chapter 586. The dark clouds in the sky retracted, revealing celestial elephant Laozu's Dharma power that was riddled with holes. After experiencing the 8th lightning tribulation, the previously intact buttocks of the giant ape had been pierced by the thunder lightsword, leaving behind only a huge head and a nimble tail. Pure yang qi was still slowly flowing into the head and tail of the giant ape. The giant ape's eyes, which were originally wide open, began to turn lively as it looked around. After a while, it even tried to blink. The thick tail, after the injection of pure yang qi, began to curl and uncurl, also becoming mischievous. Celestial elephant Laozu's true form was revealed, and he kept the broken Dharma power. Celestial elephant Laozu was about to say something to Lu Ping, but the moment he opened his mouth, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was gray and wrinkled, his hair was white as snow, and his face was extremely old. All of these showed that celestial elephant Laozu was truly at the end of his tether. Lu Ping could even sense a gray aura from celestial elephant Laozu's body. This was a sign that his vitality had begun to decline. Perhaps the only thing that did not change was celestial elephant Laozu's pair of eyes that were like 2 deep pools. If celestial elephant Laozu did not survive this mid-Dharma power tribulation, the only thing that awaited him was the fate of death. Seeing celestial elephant Laozu in this state, Lu Ping hurriedly wanted to go forward, but was stopped by celestial elephant Laozu's outstretched hand. Celestial elephant Laozu raised his head and looked at Lu Ping. This gaze was like a ray of light that could pierce through all illusions, and Lu Ping actually had a feeling that he was being seen through. Celestial elephant Laozu stretched out his hand and threw a storage pouch and a storage ring to Lu Ping. If I die, the storage ring is yours, and the storage pouch is for Tianqin to bring back to the sect. Lu Ping nodded subconsciously and saw celestial elephant Laozu swallow the 3rd spirit demon peach. Celestial elephant Laozu's body suddenly spurted out countless lines of blood. At this time, Lu Ping could clearly see that celestial elephant Laozu's body was already covered with needle-sized wounds. Just now, when celestial elephant Laozu was blocking the continuous slashes of the thunder lightsword, even though celestial elephant Laozu had managed to block the continuous slashes of the thunder lightsword, the tiny fragments of lightning that exploded from the thunder lightsword had still pierced through celestial elephant Laozu's body. These lines of blood that spurted out had not yet drifted to the ground, but the giant ape Dharma power suddenly swelled out from celestial elephant Laozu's body and took the opportunity to smear the blood that spurted out onto the Dharma power. A golden red head, a golden red tail, in addition to the body and limbs that were stained with celestial elephant Laozu's blood. Celestial elephant Laozu's newly condensed Dharma power was like a tragic warrior. Facing the dark clouds in the sky, it let out a long roar, as though it was facing death with equanimity. The dark clouds that were as black as ink pressed lower and lower, and the rumbling of thunder caused the atmosphere to become more and more oppressive. It was as though the thunder was the angry roar of heaven and earth, and also as though it was loudly reprimanding celestial elephant Laozu for provoking its majesty. Explode! A clear shout suddenly came from behind celestial elephant Laozu. Although celestial elephant Laozu knew that the person behind him was Lu Ping, when he turned to look in the direction of Lu Ping, he saw 12 high-grade spirit stones thrown by Lu Ping in front of celestial elephant Laozu. The 12 high-grade spirit stones exploded all at once, and 12 clouds of rich heaven and earth spiritual energy surrounded celestial elephant Laozu. In just a moment, it was absorbed by celestial elephant Laozu's giant ape Dharma power. Celestial elephant Laozu's eyes lit up, and he said loudly, "Such pure spiritual energy. What kind of magic art is this?" With celestial elephant Laozu's eyesight, he could naturally see that the 12 high-grade spirit stones that were crushed were not important, but the method that Lu Ping used to stimulate the spiritual energy contained in the spirit stones. Although the value of a spirit stone was determined by the amount of spiritual power it contained, most of the spiritual power contained in a spirit stone was impure. When a cultivator used a spirit stone to cultivate, they often had to first filter the spiritual power in the spirit stone before they could absorb it with ease. It was because of this filtering that celestial elephant Laozu did not use spirit stones to restore his spiritual energy in the interval between resisting the tribulations. Firstly, there was not enough time, and secondly, it was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water. It would be better for celestial elephant Laozu to take this opportunity to recuperate from his internal injuries, and perhaps he would be able to display greater strength when the next lightning tribulation descended. However, the spiritual energy that Lu Ping used to explode the 12 high-grade spirit stones at the same time, the purest part of the spiritual energy contained in the spirit stones was stimulated. This way, it saved a cultivator the time to filter the impure energy. However, the spiritual energy that was stimulated in this way was a little violent, and it was not very suitable for cultivators to cultivate. Moreover, the instantaneous explosion also caused a lot of spiritual energy to be wasted because there was not enough time to absorb it. However, at this critical moment, Lu Ping did not care so much. The pure spiritual energy of the 12 high-grade spirit stones was instantly absorbed by Celestial Elephant Laozu. Celestial Elephant Laozu was happy at first, but he quickly said, "Not enough?" Lu Ping was shocked to realize that the person standing in front of him was a mid-Dharma adept. The spiritual energy of 12 high-grade spirit stones might be considered a lot for a late core forging adept, but for a Dharma adept like Laozu, it was only a drizzle. Lu Ping raised his hand and threw out another 18 high-grade spirit stones. After the spiritual energy of the 18 balls of pure spiritual energy exploded, Celestial Elephant Laozu's Dharma giant ape opened its mouth and sucked all the spiritual energy into its mouth. The giant ape smacked its lips as if it had not had enough. Lu Ping immediately threw out another 18 high-grade spirit stones, but he had a helpless smile on his face. It was not too difficult to use the spiritual energy of the spiritual energy explosion, but it was a delicate task. With Lu Ping's current skills, he could at most activate 18 high-grade spirit stones at a time, and that was already his limit. Looking at the dark clouds in the sky that were getting lower and lower, Celestial Elephant Laozu frowned even more. He suddenly instructed Lu Ping, "There are top-grade spirit stones in the storage ring." Lu Ping naturally understood. The storage ring that Celestial Elephant Laozu had just thrown to him had been removed by Celestial Elephant Laozu. The moment Lu Ping received the storage ring, he also searched it with his divine will. The items inside were not as dazzling as Lu Ping had imagined, but each item was extremely valuable in the world of practice. Lu Ping found a small storage bag in a corner of Celestial Elephant Laozu's storage ring. There were 38 top-grade spirit stones and a large pile of top-grade spirit stones in it. Lu Ping did not have time to check the number of top-grade spirit stones. He quickly fished out 10 top-grade spirit stones and threw 3 of them around Celestial Elephant Laozu. The 3 top-grade spirit stones exploded, and a huge spiritual power spread out. Suddenly, a small spiritual power storm was set off around Celestial Elephant Laozu's body. Celestial Elephant Laozu's giant ape Dharma power suddenly burst out with a surprised roar, and a huge spiritual power quickly gathered around the giant ape Dharma power with the Dharma power as the center. The half-raised face of the giant ape Dharma power actually showed an extremely comfortable expression. The originally scarlet Dharma power only had a dazzling golden color on its head and tail. After the spiritual power of the 3 top-grade spirit stones was quickly absorbed, the scarlet color of the giant ape Dharma power's body suddenly faded a lot. Lu Ping continued to work hard and activated the 3 top-grade spirit stones with the spirit explosion technique twice in a row. At this time, the scarlet body of the giant ape Dharma power's original scarlet body had an additional layer of light gold. Just as Lu Ping took out 3 top-grade spirit stones from his storage magic tool and was about to use the spirit explosion technique, the dark clouds in the sky seemed to have no patience for Celestial Elephant Laozu to make more preparations. The thick, dark clouds were like the water of the heavenly river falling from the sky, directly rushing towards Celestial Elephant Laozu. From time to time, huge golden waves appeared in the black river formed by the dark clouds, which was a result of tribulation lightning rolling out from the dark clouds. The giant ape Dharma power let out a loud roar and actually directly rushed towards the surging dark clouds of the heavenly river. At this moment, celestial elephant Laozu was like a strong athlete fighting against the tide. His hands tore at the surging dark clouds of the heavenly river, immediately revealing a gap in the turbulent heavenly river. Celestial elephant Laozu took the opportunity to stand in the middle of the torn dark clouds of the heavenly river like a reef, standing still and letting the wind and waves hit him. A huge wave formed by the golden tribulation lightning pounced over, and the giant ape also spouted a golden stream of water from its mouth, which turned into a thick, 5-foot-long broadsword. With just one slash, the huge wave was smashed into pieces. However, the heavenly river was endless, and the huge waves did not stop. The surging heavenly river was endless, and the huge waves formed by the tribulation lightning in the heavenly river came one after another, each higher than the previous one. At this moment, the lightning's 7 treasures calabash was already suspended in the air above celestial elephant Laozu by Lu Ping. Every time a huge wave of lightning came crashing over, the lightning's 7 treasures calabash would take the opportunity to peel off a strand of lightning from the waves and absorb it into the lightning's 7 treasures calabash. With the help of the lightning's 7 treasures calabash, after Laozu's great ape Dharma power incarnation consecutively destroyed 108 weakened waves of lightning, the lightning's 7 treasures calabash stopped revolving above Laozu and flew back to Lu Ping in a wobbly manner. Lu Ping reached out to take the lightning's 7 treasures calabash and examined it. He found that the 6th spiritual barrier in the lightning's 7 treasures calabash had already been condensed to the last moment. Every time this happened, the lightning's 7 treasures calabash would no longer absorb the tribulation lightning. Helpless, Lu Ping could only put the lightning's 7 treasures calabash into his heart space to nourish it. Fortunately, this time, celestial elephant Laozu was somewhat prepared. He was not flustered by the sudden withdrawal of the lightning's 7 treasures calabash, causing the power of the lightning's 7 treasures calabash to increase. The great ape Dharma power incarnation remained in the heavenly river, not moving in the slightest. However, at this moment, Lu Ping could already see that the Dharma power incarnation of Laozu had already returned to its original scarlet color. Moreover, from the chest area of the Dharma power incarnation, red blood essence seeped out from time to time, doing its best to repair the Dharma power incarnation that had been corroded by the heavenly river and struck by the tribulation lightning. The great ape head was still glowing with a golden light. However, the great ape tail that had been glowing with the same golden light was now only the tip of the tail that was floating on the heavenly river, still glowing with a golden light. At this moment, Lu Ping was also at his wit's end. He could only hope that celestial elephant Laozu would be able to make it through this final moment. Fortunately, the heavenly river of heavenly clouds had clearly weakened a lot. It seemed that celestial elephant Laozu's 9th tribulation lightning was nearing its final moment. Thinking about the birth of a Dharma adept of his sect that was about to be witnessed by him, Lu Ping looked at celestial elephant Laozu, who was battling the tribulation lightning in the heavenly river of heavenly clouds, and he could not help but feel a surge of excitement in his heart. However, after a moment, Lu Ping gradually threw the excitement in his heart to the back of his mind, and his expression was replaced by a look of shock. The pitch-black clouds were like a heavenly river descending from the heavens, surging endlessly and roaring endlessly. The huge waves carried with them an indomitable and unstoppable aura. This kind of charm, this kind of aura, immediately attracted Lu Ping's entire body and mind. The long cry of a flying sword could be heard, and the golden scale sword suddenly flew out from the space in Lu Ping's heart. With the long sword in his hand, Lu Ping was instantly enlightened. His hands formed a series of sword gestures, and the golden scale sword immediately danced in the sky, forming a river of swords. The river of swords descended from the sky, turning into rolling waves of swords. It carried an indomitable aura, as if it wanted to open up a path in the cultivation world. So that's how it is, so that's how it is. Lu Ping's face was filled with joy. The sword gestures in his hands became more and more fluid, and the river of swords also became more and more turbulent. Every undercurrent in the river of swords, Every drop of water contained a sword, and they were all swords. Within the river of swords, Lu Ping's flying swords were everywhere. The golden scale sword danced to its peak, and the sword gestures in Lu Ping's hands suddenly changed. A monstrous sword wave suddenly rose above the turbulent river of swords, as if it wanted to shatter and penetrate all obstacles in the river of swords. At the same time, Lu Ping's swordsmanship realm also seemed to shatter and penetrate a barrier. Lu Ping threw his head back and laughed loudly. The great river flows east sword technique, a swordsmanship magic. Could this be the true fortuitous encounter that Lyra Laozu was talking about? After Lu Ping mastered another swordsmanship magic, Lu Ping suddenly came to a realization. At this moment, celestial phenomenon Laozu had yet to transcend the ninth lightning tribulation, and he was practicing his swordsmanship unscrupulously at the place where celestial phenomenon Laozu was transcending his tribulation. It would be best if he did not disturb Laozu's tribulation. Lu Ping hurriedly put away the golden scale sword. When he turned to look, he heard a loud laughter that was even louder than Lu Ping's laughter. At this moment, the lightning tribulation was nearing its end. The heavenly river formed by the dark clouds was gradually drying up, and in the sky, a tribulation lightning wave that was even bigger than the one before fell. Celestial phenomenon Laozu suddenly leaped high up from the heavenly river, and the long saber in his hand that was formed by golden liquid slashed forward with all his might. This huge tribulation lightning wave was instantly dispersed by celestial phenomenon Laozu. Celestial phenomenon Laozu landed on the ground, and he staggered. He hurriedly used the long saber in his hand to support his body. At this moment, there were no dark clouds or heavenly river on the ground. When Lu Ping looked up, he saw that the dark clouds in the sky were also rapidly dissipating, and a bright light gradually emerged from behind the dissipating dark clouds. A huge Dharma idol once again rose from the top of celestial phenomenon Laozu's head, and the huge ape head began to swallow the pure yang qi that gathered around celestial phenomenon Laozu. In just a moment, all the pure yang qi that could make Lu Ping hover between life and death was sucked into the stomach of the Dharma idol. Chapter 587. The amount of pure yang qi that celestial phenomenon Laozu's Dharma idol giant ape swallowed in an instant was more than 10 times the amount of pure yang qi that Lu Ping had refined. This caused Lu Ping, who was watching from the side, to be dumbfounded. The pure yang qi was completely swallowed by the Dharma idol giant ape in an instant, and at this moment, the dark clouds in the sky finally dispersed. A ray of silvery light shone brightly, and when Lu Ping raised his head to look, he was shocked to discover that this ray of silvery light, which had almost covered the sunlight, was actually directly shooting towards the place where celestial phenomenon Laozu was undergoing tribulation. The opportunity has arrived. Let's see how much you can absorb. Celestial phenomenon Laozu's voice rang out in his ears, causing Lu Ping's expression to freeze. This was the true opportunity? Just as Lu Ping was in a daze, Laozu's Dharma idol giant ape suddenly opened its mouth towards the silvery light. Originally, the silvery light had just fallen a few hundred feet into the sky, but as the Dharma idol giant ape inhaled, a dense stream of silvery light was instantly separated from the silvery light and directly entered the Dharma idol giant ape's mouth. To Lu Ping's astonishment, after celestial phenomenon Laozu's Dharma idol giant ape swallowed the silvery light, its scarlet body was rapidly dyed with a layer of gold, and the originally golden ape's head and tail shone even more brightly. Under the gaze of the three clear true eyes, Lu Ping suddenly discovered that celestial phenomenon Laozu's originally heavily injured body was actually recovering rapidly. The numerous cracks on the surface of his body had already regenerated, and this time, it wasn't forcefully glued together, but truly healed. At this moment, the silvery light had already descended a few hundred feet into the sky, and Lu Ping's divine will was already able to touch and guide the silvery light. Lu Ping's divine will extended out and instantly guided a stream of silvery light down. Celestial phenomenon Laozu looked at Lu Ping with some surprise. This silvery light seemed light, but in reality, it was incomparably heavy. Lu Ping was actually able to use his divine will to guide it from a few hundred feet away without using any true yuan. From this, it could be seen that Lu Ping's divine will cultivation had already reached an extremely high level. This stream of silvery light descended, bathing Lu Ping's entire body in silvery light. Lu Ping felt a pure world origin qi surround him, and it seeped into Lu Ping's blood through his ears, mouth, nose, and pores, transforming into an extremely pure true yuan. It fused with Lu Ping's own true yuan. Lu Ping immediately felt his cultivation greatly improve after fusing with this true yuan. Lu Ping opened his eyes and revealed a look of pleasant surprise. Looking up, his divine will swept out and guided another stream of silvery light down from the sky. At this time, it was already celestial phenomenon Laozu's turn to receive and devour 5 streams of silvery light. This heavenly flower dew, which was born from the tribulations, was the source of this world's qi. That was why it could be directly absorbed by a cultivator and transformed into their own true yuan. This was also the most direct form of compensation for a cultivator who had survived the tribulations. It was precisely because of the existence of the heavenly flower dew that Dharma adepts could recover from their injuries in an extremely short period of time and consolidate their cultivation level. This was also the reason why after a Dharma adept successfully passed the tribulations, his or her own injuries were rarely taken advantage of by his or her enemies. However, in order to quickly absorb the heavenly flower dew, a cultivator's true yuan had to be refined with pure yang qi. Without a doubt, pure yang qi was something that only Dharma adepts could absorb and use. Hence, core forging adepts who had not refined pure yang qi had to spend a large amount of time and effort to refine every single drop of heavenly flower dew. Even so, if a core forging adept could absorb a drop of heavenly flower dew, it would save him or her years of hard work. This was also the opportunity that Tianqin Laozu had repeatedly emphasized to Lu Ping. However, what surprised celestial phenomenon Laozu was the speed at which Lu Ping was absorbing the heavenly flower dew. How could Lu Ping, who was only a core forging adept, absorb the heavenly flower dew so quickly? Naturally, celestial phenomenon Laozu did not know that Lu Ping had taken the risk to refine a drop of pure yang qi. Because of this, he had almost lost his true yuan and his cultivation level. The amount of heavenly flower dew that fell after every tribulations was enough for a Dharma adept to consolidate his cultivation level. There was even a large amount of heavenly flower dew that dissipated into the air. This was also the reason why celestial phenomenon Laozu had called Lu Ping over to give him this opportunity. However, celestial phenomenon Laozu did not expect that Lu Ping would be able to absorb the heavenly flower dew so quickly. Looking at the slowly descending silver light in the sky, celestial phenomenon Laozu could not help but feel nervous. Could it be that because of this kid, the amount of heavenly flower dew that fell this time was not enough? As he thought of this, celestial phenomenon Laozu involuntarily increased the speed at which he absorbed the heavenly flower dew. Before this, every time celestial phenomenon Laozu absorbed 5 streams of heavenly flower dew, Lu Ping would only be able to absorb 1. But now that celestial phenomenon Laozu increased his speed, Lu Ping would only be able to absorb 1 out of every 6 streams. Previously, when celestial phenomenon Laozu was undergoing his tribulations, he would call the juniors of his clan over to absorb the heavenly flower dew. Oftentimes, it would require celestial phenomenon Laozu to intentionally slow down the speed of absorption. Only then would there be a chance for the juniors to absorb 1 or 2 more streams. But when it came to Lu Ping, the situation was completely reversed. This caused celestial phenomenon Laozu to feel both exasperated and amused at the same time. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that such a situation would occur. Celestial phenomenon Laozu looked at the heavenly flower dew that was suspended in the air. At this time, there was only half of it left. Celestial phenomenon Laozu's internal injuries had already healed. Even if Lu Ping absorbed the remaining heavenly flower dew, it would be enough for him to consolidate his cultivation. Only then did he relax. At this time, Lu Ping didn't care about the fact that cultivation needed to be done step by step. After refining the pure yang qi, the seven treasures Thunder Gourd and the natal Gentian Grand Formation returned to Lu Ping. Not only did Lu Ping completely consolidate his core forging sixth layer, it also allowed Lu Ping's cultivation to progress by leaps and bounds. Because of this, Lu Ping's golden core expanded 6 times in a row. Lu Ping was all too familiar with this situation. Every time Lu Ping's cultivation broke through and stepped into a new layer, Lu Ping's golden core would expand 9 times in a row. Now, it had expanded 6 times in a row. This meant that Lu Ping was not far from breaking through the core forging 6th layer and advancing to the core forging 7th layer. However, just as Lu Ping absorbed 2 drops of heavenly flower dew and refined them into his blood vessels, Lu Ping's golden core expanded once again. Lu Ping was stunned. When he looked up, he discovered that the speed at which celestial phenomenon Laozu absorbed the heavenly flower dew seemed to have increased by a lot. Lu Ping secretly pondered. Could it be that the heavenly flower dew would dissipate after a long period of time? The more Lu Ping thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. How could a heavenly treasure that could directly increase a cultivator's cultivation be so easily obtained? Naturally, the faster the hands, the less the hands. At this moment, Lu Ping didn't have time to think about whether or not refining the heavenly flower dew would cause his cultivation foundation to become unstable. His divine sense rushed out from his body and accelerated the absorption of the heavenly flower dew. Another 2 drops of heavenly flower dew were refined and Lu Ping's golden core expanded again. This was already the 8th time. At this moment, Lu Ping looked at the remaining half of the silver light in the sky. Without the slightest hesitation, another 2 drops of heavenly flower dew were drawn down. Within Lu Ping's core space, a loud sound that only he could hear rang out. The huge golden core expanded for the 9th time, causing the Gentian Formation, lightning 7 treasures calabash, Linchuan cauldron, golden scale sword, water-controlling flag, landslide seal, and other important treasures of Lu Ping to suddenly come to a halt. The lightning 7 treasures calabash was like a fatty that had eaten to his throat. The sudden pause caused several bolts of lightning to gush out of the calabash's mouth. Lu Ping couldn't be more familiar with this situation. This was an inevitable phenomenon that occurred when Lu Ping's cultivation reached the peak of the core forging stage. Sure enough, after the 9 consecutive expansions, the golden core suddenly shrunk back to its original size. The magic treasures that were being nurtured in the core space also returned to their original state. However, at this time, the golden core became more and more reserved. The clouds that surrounded the golden core also became richer and more beautiful. The peak of the 6th layer of core forging was reached so easily. Lu Ping couldn't believe his eyes. At this time, the changes in the golden core told Lu Ping the truth. At this time, the essence of the golden core was restrained and the clouds surrounded it. There wasn't the slightest sign of damage to the foundation. The true essence in the blood vessels was also as pure and vigorous as before. There was no trace of abnormal true essence entering the body. At this time, the 2 remaining silver lights in the sky were received by celestial phenomenon Laozu and Lu Ping. However, after the 7th drop of heavenly flower dew circled around Lu Ping's body, it could no longer enter Lu Ping's body, let alone be refined. After celestial phenomenon Laozu absorbed the last drop of heavenly flower dew, he didn't look like he had when he was resisting the lightning tribulation. Most of his snow-white hair had turned black, and his old face gradually became ruddy. The image of a graceful middle-aged cultivator once again appeared in front of Lu Ping. The only difference from the previous celestial phenomenon Laozu was that the current celestial phenomenon Laozu's eyes were as deep as 2 wells, and the aura around his body was even more obscure. It was as if every movement he made was law. Seeing the last drop of heavenly flower dew that Lu Ping had absorbed, celestial phenomenon Laozu's face revealed a look of surprise. He opened his mouth and asked, "How many drops of heavenly flower dew did you absorb?" Lu Ping didn't understand what was going on and replied, "Reporting to Martial Uncle, this disciple has absorbed the 7th drop of heavenly flower dew." Oh! Although celestial phenomenon Laozu faintly nodded his head, his heart was filled with satisfaction. Normally, a late-stage core forging cultivator would absorb 6 or 7 drops of heavenly flower dew before reaching the peak of their current stage. Lu Ping was only a 6th-layer core forging cultivator. Although it had been less than a year since his last breakthrough, he was still able to absorb 6 drops of heavenly flower dew. This kind of solid foundation made celestial phenomenon Laozu very satisfied. Chapter 588. However, what Tianxiang Laozu didn't know was that before absorbing the heavenly flower dew, Lu Ping's golden core had already expanded 6 times due to the pure yang qi he had absorbed. But the 6 drops of heavenly flower dew only caused Lu Ping's golden core to expand for the last 3 times. If Lu Ping were to absorb the heavenly flower dew with his core forging 6th level cultivation, then 6 drops of heavenly flower dew wouldn't be enough to satisfy him. Lu Ping looked at the heavenly flower dew that was circling around him, but he was unable to absorb it. Helplessly, he sent it to Tianxiang Laozu's side and said, "Senior uncle, this disciple has enough heavenly flower dew. Why don't you absorb this one?" Tianxiang Laozu smiled. The heavenly flower dew is the best way for core forging cultivators to increase their cultivation. But for us transcendence cultivators, it can only be used to recover from injuries and consolidate our cultivation. With the old man's current cultivation, the heavenly flower dew's effect on increasing his cultivation is negligible. I heard that you have a few spirit pets under your command, so you can handle this heavenly flower dew as you see fit. Just be careful. The heavenly flower dew cannot be stored for long. After 6 hours, it will disappear from the world. Lu Ping nodded his head and thought for a moment. With a wave of his hand, a golden door appeared and Lu Qiner flew out. The moment she came out, she said, "Big brother, it's been so boring these past few days. Guan Yu isn't here. Debao is also nowhere to be seen. There's no one else to play with me." As soon as Lu Qiner finished speaking, she saw a middle-aged cultivator standing in front of Lu Ping. As a demonic cultivator, Lu Qiner had an innate premonition of danger. She could feel an irresistible sense of danger from this smiling middle-aged cultivator. She hurriedly folded her wings and landed on Lu Ping's shoulder, carefully looking at Tianxiang Laozu. Lu Ping could clearly feel the fear radiating from Lu Qiner's body. Smiling, he introduced to Lu Qiner, "This is my senior uncle, Tianxiang Laozu. Little sister Qiner, come and greet him." On Lu Ping's shoulder, Lu Qiner transformed into a ball of fire as she shot towards the ground. As the fire dissipated, a 13 or 14-year-old lass appeared in front of Lu Ping. Tilting her head, she glanced at Tianxiang Laozu before shyly bowing to Tianxiang Laozu. Lu Qiner pays her respect to senior uncle Tianxiang. Tianxiang Laozu stared at Lu Qiner. A strange light flashed in his eyes as he said, "Wind Luans aren't considered peak-level demonic beasts in the cultivation world, but this child actually has the bloodline of the Fire Luan. Not only that, but from the looks of it, the bloodline of the Fire Luan in her has already been stimulated. Not only that, her starting point is quite high. This is a little strange." If the Fire Luan clan were to learn of this, I'm afraid they would be in trouble. Lu Ping passed the heavenly flower due to Lu Qiner as he said, "This is a great fortune gifted to you by senior uncle Tianxiang. Absorb it and refine it carefully. With your current cultivation, if you completely refine it, I'm afraid you'll be preparing to break through to the mid-core forging stage." Naturally, Lu Qiner was overjoyed upon hearing this. At this moment, she had already broken through to the 3rd level of core forging stage. Although Lu Qiner was a hard-working person, she lacked patience. Luckily, her aptitude was high, and Lu Ping was extremely strict in his supervision, so her aptitude wasn't wasted. However, in her heart, she had long since grown tired of the endless years of cultivation. Now that she heard Lu Ping say that the silver light in front of her had such a miraculous effect, she received it from Lu Ping's hands and thanked Tianxiang Laozu before flying back to the House of Gold to enter closed-door seclusion. Tianxiang Laozu suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction that Tianxiang Laozu had left. By the time Lu Ping sensed it, Tianxiang Laozu had already turned into a rainbow light and landed in front of the two of them. After Tianxiang Laozu landed, he could feel the surging inner yuan emanating from Tianxiang Laozu's body. Immediately, he said excitedly, "Congratulations on becoming a Dharma adept. senior uncle. From now on, I, Zhenling, will truly have a place to speak in the world of cultivation. Although the sects and clans in the world of practice were divided into 4 categories, giant, large, medium, and small, the sects that were truly influential in the world of practice had to have a late Dharma adept in their ranks. Sometimes, some medium sects without a Dharma adept in their ranks might not even be as influential as a Dharma adept who had started out as a lone Dharma adept. Of course, for a lone practitioner to be able to push his or her own level of practice to the late Dharma stage, his or her temperament, wisdom, ability, and even luck would naturally be the best of the best. It was not surprising that he or she could take on an entire sect on his or her own. However, now that Zhenling had its own Dharma adept, its power was different. Just as Xiao Yuhuan Laozu of the Xiaoyao sect had said, Zhenling was only lacking a late Dharma adept. Once a Dharma adept was born in Zhenling, then Zhenling's power would increase exponentially. It would even be comparable to the 5 first-tier sects in the overseas world of cultivation. This was also the biggest reason why the Xiaoyao sect was trying so hard to rope in Zhenling. With a late Dharma adept as the leader, Zhenling had 9 Dharma adepts. This level of power was enough for any sect in the overseas world of cultivation, except for the Crystal Palace, to pay attention to them. After returning to Jingzha Island, Tianxiang Laozu did not spread the news that he had become a Dharma adept. Only the 2 Zenrens, Xian San and Xian Su, hurried over to congratulate him. However, if the news of Tianxiang Laozu becoming a Dharma adept were to spread, who knew how much of a surprise it would bring to Zhenling? After accepting the congratulations of both Xian San and Xian Su, Tianxiang Laozu turned to instruct Tian Qin, who was beside him. Now that this matter has been settled, you can bring the disciples back to Tianling Mountain. Regarding my advancement to become a Dharma adept, only the few Laozu, Xian Shan, Xian Cheng, Xian Feng, Xian Shu, Xian Hua, and a few others will do. The rest must be kept strictly confidential. Tian Qin Laozu nodded in agreement. Tianxiang Laozu then turned to Lu Ping and said with a smile, "Initially, I had prepared a big gift for you. But who would have thought that the old man would be lucky enough to survive? You wouldn't be disappointed, would you?" Lu Ping repeatedly said that he wouldn't dare. Since Tianxiang Laozu had successfully passed the tribulation, how would Lu Ping still dare to keep the things that Tianxiang had given to him? He had already exchanged them with Tianxiang Laozu on the spot. Although Lu Ping could not forget the treasures in Tianxiang Laozu's storage artifact, he did not dare to show it on his face. Hearing Tianxiang Laozu's words, Lu Ping hurriedly waved his hands and said, "Senior Uncle Master, this disciple cannot accept such words. If this matter were to spread to teacher's ears, this disciple would definitely have to eat a meal." When Tian Qin Laozu heard Lu Ping mentioning the heavenly spirit Laozu, he immediately snorted coldly. Xian Su and Xian San smiled bitterly at each other. Only Lu Ping and Tianxiang Laozu acted as though they didn't hear what Lu Ping said. However, for some unknown reason, Tianxiang Laozu laughed and scolded, "Little brat, you are too audacious. You even dared to interfere with the old man's lightning tribulation." The countenances of Tian Qin Laozu, Xian San, and Xian Su drastically changed when they heard that. The gazes they cast at Lu Ping also contained a hint of reproach. However, Tianxiang Laozu continued, "Luckily, due to a freak combination of factors, you unintentionally weakened the power of the lightning tribulation. The old man more or less received your help, and this time around, you can be considered to have made up for your mistakes. However, in the future, you must not casually interfere with the lightning tribulations of others. If it wasn't for the fact that you are a disciple of our sect, the old man would have already killed you back then. When cultivators transcend their lightning tribulations, they would rather kill the wrong person than let the wrong person off." Tianxiang Laozu's face was filled with killing intent as he spoke. Although this killing intent wasn't targeted at Lu Ping was still extremely unhappy in his heart. Initially, he wanted to protest, but when he saw Tianxiang Laozu staring at him, he changed his mind. From the beginning to the end, Tianxiang Laozu hadn't mentioned the 7 Thunder treasures gourd at all. There must be some secrets hidden in this matter. Hence, Lu Ping chose to remain silent. As the sound of Tian Xiang Laozu's voice faded, the entire cavern fell into silence. Taoist Xian San stared in astonishment at Tian Qin Laozu, who had been silent all this while. He had no idea why Tian Qin Laozu didn't make things difficult for Lu Ping this time around. This was an extremely rare opportunity to deal a blow to Lu Tianling. Interfering with the lightning tribulations of others was a great taboo in the cultivation world. Taoist Xian San naturally wasn't willing for Lu Ping to be punished. This was especially so after he heard that although Lu Ping was reckless, he had unintentionally helped Tian Xiang Laozu transcend his lightning tribulation. Hence, he hesitated for a moment before he spoke. Senior uncle. Although this junior nephew Xinping was reckless, he didn't commit any grave mistakes. His intention was to help senior uncle to transcend your lightning tribulation. Now that senior uncle is safe and sound, our sect has gained another grand cultivator. This is a time for celebration. I hope that senior uncle can be lenient in his punishment. Taoist Xian Su was the personal disciple of Tian Xiang Laozu. When he heard his teacher's words, the good impression he had of Lu Ping instantly disappeared by half. When he heard Taoist Xian San speaking up for Lu Ping, he sat at the side and didn't say a word. Clearly, he was unhappy with Lu Ping. Tian Xiang Laozu waved his hands and smiled. The old man has his own plans for this matter. There's no need for you all to interfere. The matters in the Eastern Sea have already concluded. The old man will continue to guard the Jingzha Island for a period of time. You all can return to the sect first. The few third-generation disciples have already obtained the heaven and earth treasures. I'm afraid they are already itching to refine them. After Tian Qin Laozu and the rest retreated from Tian Xiang Laozu's cave, Lu Ping was left alone by Tian Xiang Laozu in the cave for half a day. Half a day later, Tian Qin Laozu and Taoist Xian San led Xian Tian, Xian Hui, Xian Ru, Xian Yu, Xian Bei, and the rest to the teleportation array. Taoist Xian Su and the rest still accompanied Tian Xiang Laozu to guard the Jingzha Island, but at this moment, they also rushed over to send them off. Lu Ping rushed over and apologized to Tian Qin Laozu, and Taoist Xian Senator Tian Qin Laozu declined to comment, while Taoist Xian Sun had a pensive look on his face. Taoist Xian Su merely glanced at Lu Ping indifferently. The other senior martial brothers and sisters also had strange expressions on their faces when they looked at Lu Ping. Lu Ping remained calm and composed, completely unmoved by the expressions of the others. After bidding farewell to Ji Xuanhuan and Wei Xianpeng, the teleportation array activated. After an unknown period of time, a beam of light flashed and Lu Ping and the rest had already returned to the northern sea that they had not seen for nearly a year. Just as Lu Ping stabilized his footing in the teleportation array, a vast aura rose around him. Tian Qin Laozu slowly rose from the teleportation array, and the aura of a manifestation stage rose in one go, seemingly announcing her return to the entire Jinling realm. Chapter 589. Lyra Laozu's sudden outburst caught Taoist Master Xian San and the others off guard. They were pushed away by Lyra Laozu's tyrannical aura. Lu Ping seemed to have predicted this. He was already standing at the side when he came out of the teleportation array and wasn't affected by Lyra Laozu's aura. Heaven's Spirit Mountain was thrown into chaos. Many cultivators thought that there were foreign cultivators who had come to provoke Heaven's Spirit Mountain. Many core forging cultivators flew out from their caves and aggressively flew in the direction of ancestor Tianqi. For a time, the core forging cultivators seemed to cover half of the sky above Heaven's Spirit Mountain. However, after the core forging stage cultivators from Tianling Mountain flew closer, many of the older second-generation disciples saw the murderous woman standing in the center of the teleportation array, and without a word, they turned around and flew back to their cave abodes. What a joke. The demoness had returned. Clearly, she wasn't here for them. What they feared the most was mortals suffering when immortals fought. It was best to hide as far away as possible. Some of the younger disciples, the second-generation disciples, and some of the third-generation disciples who didn't cultivate on Heaven's Spirit Mountain in the past all stared at the seniors, uncles, and uncles who had turned around and returned in bewilderment. Fortunately, Xian San, Xian Tian, and Xian Hui were familiar faces, especially the most famous water sword immortal among the third-generation disciples. There was no reason for these people to collude with outsiders to invade Jinling. Thus, some of them faintly sensed that something was wrong. They hurriedly nodded at Taoist Master Xian San and the others in the distance and returned to their caves. Of course, there were also some hotheads who took advantage of the fact that they were in Tianling Mountains, Jinling Base. They stepped forward and shouted at Lyra Laozu, "Who are you? How dare you be so presumptuous in Jinling?" Lu Ping's expression was cold. Xian San, Xian Tian, and the others began to mourn for these people. Sure enough, when Tianqin Laozu saw a few third-generation disciples roaring in front of him, his face immediately lit up, as if he had found something fun. Tianqin Laozu pointed a finger at the third-generation disciples, and a few threads of fire shot out from her finger, entangling the disciples. "How dare you attack in Jinling?" Naturally, the disciples were not fools. Although they were shouting, their divine senses had already discovered that the person in front of them was unfathomable. The reason why they did not retreat was because they had the banner of Jinling behind them. Moreover, they really wanted to show off in front of their fellow disciples. Seeing that the female cultivator in front of him actually dared to attack without any scruples, although he was afraid, he still tried his best to use his hands to block. However, how could the few threads of fire in Tianqin Laozu's hands be blocked by a few core-forging third-generation disciples? The threads of fire ignored the various spells and magic treasures cast by the disciples and directly entangled them. The disciples watched in fear as the threads of fire entangled them, but they could not escape at all. They immediately knew that they had provoked someone they should not have provoked. The disciples immediately wanted to beg for mercy, but when they opened their mouths, they found that the threads of fire had even controlled their voices. They could only open their mouths to speak, but not a single sound came out. But before the disciples could open their mouths a few times, they suddenly saw an extremely frightened expression on their faces. Then, their faces began to distort, and they could no longer close their mouths. Instead, they opened their mouths wider and wider, and it was clear that they were howling miserably. Spiritual Master Xian Sen let out a sigh and said, "Senior sister, these disciples had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended you. I hope that you can just give them a light punishment. After all, you have left the sect for dozens of years. It is normal for them to not recognize you." Tianqin Laozu did not reply to Taoist Master Xian Sen's words. Instead, she stared at the depths of Tianling Mountain. At this moment, Lu Ping also seemed to sense something and looked in the direction of Tianqin Laozu's gaze. At this moment, Taoist Master Xian Sen also sensed something. When he looked up, he saw a few rays of light rising from the depths of Tianling Mountain and rapidly flying towards Tianqin Laozu. Tianqin Laozu looked at the few flustered and exasperated rays of light and sneered. However, she stood there calmly, waiting for the rays of light to land on the ground. The rays of light flickered, and a few cultivators who looked somewhat old appeared in front of everyone. Lu Ping was startled because he did not recognize any of these people. However, all of them were at least at the 8th layer of the core forging realm. Among them, there were even 4 or 5 peak core forging realm cultivators who had condensed their gold cores. Seeing the old men appear, the few cultivators who were in the midst of wailing wretchedly rushed towards them. It was as though they had seen their saviors. However, their feet were incapable of moving at all. There was anxiousness in their eyes, but the intense pain coming from the 7-colored fire lines wrapping around their bodies caused their faces to contort. The elders looked at the disciples who were lying on the ground in pain. Although their faces were filled with indignation, and the corners of their eyes were even beginning to twitch, they stood in front of Tianqin Laozu as if they were afraid. They did not express anything and only stared at Tianqin Laozu with solemn expressions. Tianqin Laozu suddenly smiled sweetly and said, "Martial Uncle Xian Yun, Martial Uncle Xian Lu, Martial Uncle Xian Yang, Senior Brother Xian Shui, Senior Brother Xian Fei, Senior Brother Xian Tang, I haven't seen you in decades. How are you all?" Standing in the middle, The cultivator who looked the oldest said in a deep voice, Tianqin, it was a good thing that you returned to the sect, but why did you punish us juniors so heavily? Are you trying to use us juniors to establish your power? Then you should go find Tianling. What's the point of looking for a few juniors? Tianqin Laozu smiled indifferently and said, Martial Uncle Xian Yun is wrong. It is a small matter that these disciples offended me, but after they saw that I was not their match, they still dared to come forward and clamor. It can be seen that these disciples have either not seen much of the world, or have been pampered by someone. They are used to being arrogant and despotic in the sect. This disciple's method is to make them remember that there are some people in the cultivation world that they cannot even touch. Otherwise, when they leave the sect in the future, if they do not cause trouble for the sect, they will end up dead. Tianqin Laozu's words were spoken with fervor and assurance, but the 6 people in front of him were flushed with anger. How could the disciples who were struggling on the ground be so arrogant and despotic? No one knew better than them. An old man beside spiritual master Xian Yun suppressed his anger, but he still said in a deep voice, even if these disciples offended you, the sect has its own rules and regulations, and there are enforcement disciples who enforce the family rules. What you have done is overstepping your bounds. Could it be that you, Tianqin, have become a Dharma adept, and you really do not respect the Jinling sect? Tianqin Laozu looked at the cultivator and said coldly, since Martial Uncle Xian Lu insists on our sect's enforcement disciples to settle this matter, then that's fine. I have something to announce to our sect's enforcement disciples. I just don't know if our sect's enforcement disciple has been changed. Is it still Senior Xian Shu? Spiritual Master Xian Lu turned to a cultivator beside him and said, Disciple Xian Tang, go and invite Disciple Xian Chang here. Tianqin Laozu heard this and said, the enforcement disciple has been changed to Senior Xian Chang? That's good. Just as everyone was wondering what Tianqin Laozu meant by this, Tianqin Laozu suddenly smiled and said, since Senior Xian Chang is already here, why didn't you show yourself earlier? Lu Ping's eyes flashed green, and when everyone followed Tianqin Laozu's gaze, they saw spiritual master Xian Chang suddenly come out from behind a huge tree. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he quickly laughed awkwardly and said, Haha, I didn't think that junior sister Tianqin has already entered the Dharma stage. Today, you have returned, and our sect's strength has increased by another level. What a joyous occasion! As the enforcement disciple of Jinling, how could spiritual master Xian Chang not come to check on such a big thing that had happened in front of the Heaven's Spirit Hall? But when he saw the person coming from afar, spiritual master Xian Chang's heart jumped, and he quickly hid behind a big tree. He did not think that his movements had already been seen by Tianqin Laozu. Tianqin Laozu smiled at spiritual master Xian Chang and said, Senior brother, you flatter me. I'm sorry to say this, but this time I overstepped my senior brother's authority and punished a few of the younger disciples because Uncle Master Tian Xiang sent an order. Since our sect's deacon has been changed to a Dharma adept, then our sect's enforcement disciple will naturally have to be promoted to a Dharma adept. Only then can the sect's rules be strict. I was eager to give it a try, so I recommended myself to Uncle Master Tian Xiang to be the enforcement elder. Luckily, I received Uncle Master Tian Xiang's approval. In this way, I have taken away your position, so I'm a little embarrassed. Spiritual Master Xian Chang's face turned green and white, and he was very embarrassed. But in the end, he smiled bitterly and said, with junior sister as the enforcement disciple, yes, enforcement elder, it is indeed very suitable. Since this is the case, this matter has nothing to do with me. Senior brother, I will leave first, and I will welcome junior sister when you return. Seeing spiritual master Xian Chang disappear into the distance, the faces of spiritual master Xian Yun and the others were as ugly as they could be. Tianqin Laozu giggled and said, if that is the case, do the few uncle masters and senior brothers have anything else to say? Spiritual master Xian Yun and the others angrily swung their hands and left. Tianqin Laozu suddenly let out a cold snort towards the surroundings, and the dozens of divine senses on Tianling Mountain that were constantly paying attention to this place suddenly shrank back into their respective caves as if they were scalded. After Tianqin Laozu showed her power, the flames around her body did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, It rose even higher, as if she was challenging someone. For a moment, the divine senses on Tianling Mountain that were originally quiet suddenly emerged one after another. The matter was already so obvious. How could they miss such a good show? The grudge between Lu Tianling and Mei Tianqin, a battle that had been delayed for 70 to 80 years. Chapter 590. Let's see how long you're going to hide for? Tianqin muttered to herself as she stared at the peak of Tianling Mountain. Since when did I hide? It's just that junior sister didn't notice my arrival. Tianqin Laozu suddenly raised her head and looked at the clouds in the sky. Unknowingly, the clouds in the sky had been dyed with a faint layer of blue, as if the thin white clouds had been soaked by the blue sky. The celestial zither ancestor's expression changed. With a cold snort, he rose into the air. All of the divine senses in Tianling Mountain extended towards the sky along Tianqin Laozu's figure. However, after a while, many rays of light once again appeared from various caves on Tianling Mountain and shot towards the sky. It was obvious that Tianqin Laozu and Tianling Laozu were currently at a height that was beyond the range of most cultivators' divine senses. Even Taoist Xian San and the others beside Lu Ping could not resist the temptation of watching the battle between the two. They all released their bodies and rose into the sky. Only Lu Ping remained motionless as he watched everyone disappear into the clouds. Li Xuanru, Zhao Xuanji, and Wang Xinjing naturally wanted to watch as well. It was their teacher fighting. However, when the three looked down, they found that Lu Ping was still standing in the same place. Wang Xuanjing's personality was the most lively. She asked, "Ninth junior brother, aren't you going to watch the battle between teacher and Tianqin?" Lu Ping shook his head with a smile and said, "Senior martial sisters, please go ahead first. I'm sure the battle between teacher and martial uncle Tianqin won't end well, so I won't be going. Besides, I still have something that senior martial granduncle Tianxiang ordered me to do. I need to complete it first." When the three heard that Lu Ping had Tianxiang Laozu's order, they thought about how Lu Ping had stayed in Tianxiang Laozu's cave for half a day. They did not suspect anything and flew towards the sky. Rumble. There seemed to be a thunderclap in the clear sky. When Lu Ping looked up, he saw many core forging realm cultivators scurrying around like headless flies in the sky the moment the thunder rumbled. Lu Ping secretly sneered. The battle between two Dharma adepts was not something an ordinary person could watch. Without the strength of a late core forging adept and keeping a certain distance, just the aftermath of the battle between two Dharma adepts could seriously injure a mid-core forging adept. After the first thunderclap, a series of explosions rang out. At this time, Lu Ping had already flown to the peak of Tianling Mountain. When he looked up again, the sky had clearly been divided into two parts. One part had turned blue, like the sea floating in the sky. The other part had turned into a rainbow-colored field of fire, almost burning the sky into glass. The peak of Tianling Mountain was covered by an invisible barrier. This was the most important place in Jinling's base camp. Jinling's large spirit veins were nurtured here. Jinling's sect-protecting formation also used the peak of Tianling Mountain as the eye of the formation. All of Jinling's Dharma powers, Laozu, had set up their cave abodes on the peak of Tianling Mountain. When some of the sect's elite disciples wanted to break through to the next level, they would often go into seclusion at the peak of the mountain, where the spirit veins were the densest, with the approval of the Laozu. Lu Ping flipped his palm, and a white jade token appeared in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping injected a faint golden essential core into the white jade token. The white jade token was stimulated by Lu Ping's essential core. It suddenly flew up from his hand and suddenly expanded, forming a white jade door on the invisible barrier that only allowed one person to enter and exit. Lu Ping quickly passed through the door, and the white jade door disappeared. As soon as Lu Ping passed through the door, his body was surrounded by a dense spirit energy. Lu Ping took a deep breath of the spirit energy and found that although the spirit energy at the peak of Tianling Mountain was not as dense as the secret land where Long Huai was in the Fallen Islands, it was similar to the spirit energy in the seven-star grotto heaven. However, how big was the peak of Tianling Mountain compared to the seven-star grotto heaven? It was not comparable at all. Even so, this large spirit vein was enough for Zhenling's current needs. However, as Zhenling's strength grew, the number of Transcendence Realm cultivators increased, and the number of Core Forging Realm cultivators kept increasing. This spirit vein, which was equivalent to gathering 3 large spirit veins at most in Lu Ping's opinion, was starting to feel a little inadequate. Tian Xiang Laozu hid on Jingzha Island. Tian Kong Laozu replaced Tian Shui Laozu, and Huanyu Island. Tian Jiang Laozu replaced Tian Ling Laozu to guard the medium-sized spirit mine on Frost Island, and Tian Lin Laozu guarded Huangli Island. Although they had their own duties, they were also leaving Tianling Mountain to reduce the consumption of Tianling Mountain's spirit vein and provide more spirit energy to other cultivators for their cultivation. When Lu Ping entered the peak, he realized that the peak of Tianling Mountain was covered with trees. The ground was covered with countless spirit herbs and spirit materials. There were only a few winding paths that connected to a few ordinary-looking doors. These 8 doors were the cave residences of Zhenling's 8 Transcendence Realm cultivators, other than Tian Qin Laozu. These cave residences had their own mysteries, just like Lu Tianling Laozu's door. It was just that one door was connected to the peak of the mountain using a spatial spell to absorb the pure spirit energy from the peak of the mountain for cultivation. If something big happened in Zhenling, the few Laozu could also directly meet up at Tianling Mountain through the door. Their real cave residences were still in the same place as before. For example, Lu Tianling's cave was still in the Chonghua Palace on Lake Heart Island, Tianlu Laozu's cave was always in the back mountain of the Pill Pavilion, and so on. At the center of the peak of Tianling Mountain was a hall that was even more magnificent than the Tianling Palace. This was the most important place of Zhenling, the True Spirit Hall. This hall was the largest magic treasure of Zhenling, and it was also the most important place of inheritance. The magic treasure was directly connected to the spirit vein of Tianling Mountain. At the same time, it was also the main hub of Zhenling's sect protection formation. It was also the place where the few Zhenling Laozu discussed important matters of the sect. Lu Ping turned around the True Spirit Hall, and there were a few small cave residences behind it. These cave residences were provided by Zhenling for the elite disciples of Zhenling who were eager to break through. Lu Ping's purpose of coming to the peak of Tianling Mountain was to cultivate in one of the cave residences. He wanted to break through to the late stage of core forging with the help of the large spirit vein of Tianling Mountain. However, after Lu Ping turned around the True Spirit Palace, he was surprised to see a cultivator standing outside a cave dwelling not far away, looking up at the changing clouds in the sky. The cultivator also noticed Lu Ping when he turned around, and when he saw Lu Ping, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Lu Ping quickly bowed and said happily, "Greetings, Uncle Master Xianshan. Congratulations on becoming a Dharma adept and becoming the 10th Laozu of our sect." This cultivator was perfected Gua Xianshan. Years ago, with the help of the spirit forging pill that Lu Ping had obtained from Tianling Mountain, he had successfully condensed a 7th-grade golden core. After 10 years of dedicated cultivation, he had finally broken through to the Dharma stage and became the 10th Zhenling disciple and the 4th Dharma adept of the 2nd generation. Perfected Gua Xianshan, now known as Gua Tianshan Laozu, saw Lu Ping appear at the peak of Tianling Mountain. Although he was a little puzzled, he still smiled and said, "Originally, only Laozu knew that I had broken through to the Dharma stage. I didn't expect you to find out today. I heard that you went to the East Sea with Junior Shinsen, and now that junior sister Tianqin has returned, you must have returned with her, right? But how did you enter the peak of Tianling Mountain?" Lu Ping heard Gua Tianshan Laozu's previous words and knew that Gua Tianshan Laozu did not want Lu Ping to spread the news that he had entered the Dharma stage. However, he had come to Tianling Mountain to train in seclusion, and he would not be able to break through to the late core forging stage without a few years' time. Thus, he answered, "I did something wrong in the East Sea and was punished by Uncle Master Tianxiang to reflect against the wall here. I guess I won't be able to get out for a few years." Gua Tianshan Laozu smiled and said, "You're really lucky. You don't know how many cultivators in our sect would like to be punished like you." Lu Ping smiled and did not reply. Although it was a punishment to reflect against the wall, it also depended on the location. Lu Ping's punishment was actually a reward in name. This kind of thing was not uncommon in Zhenling. Sometimes, reflecting against the wall was just a way for Zhenling to hide from others and avoid gossip. It was just like when Sage Xian Shu schemed against Huangli Island and was caught by Jiang Tianlin. After that, he was humiliated by Lu Ping when he tried to capture Yin Xianchu. Under Jiang Tianlin's instigation, he lost his position as a law enforcement disciple. Finally, with Tianfan Laozu's help, he was punished to reflect against the wall. In reality, he was also training in seclusion at the peak of Tianling Mountain, with the intention of making a comeback after becoming a Dharma adept. The battle between Tianling Laozu and Tianqin Laozu continued. In the sky, the rainbow-colored fire cloud and the blue water screen had already intertwined. Countless fireballs and water screens rained down, smashing into the protective shield of Tianling Mountain and creating ripples. This caused some of the low-level cultivators who were watching the battle to cry out in surprise. Guotianshan Laozu looked at the two people fighting in the sky and sighed. I didn't expect senior sister Tianling and junior sister Tianqin to have already reached this stage. We're both early Dharma adepts, but I'm not as good as the two of them. Lu Ping smiled and said, "What are you talking about, Uncle Master?" Teacher and Uncle Master Tianqin have already broken through to the Dharma stage for many years, maybe even decades. Uncle Master has only just broken through to the Dharma stage, and without the accumulation of time, it's normal for you to be a little weaker. After a few years, Uncle Master will familiarize himself with the early Dharma stage, and by then, Uncle Master may not be weaker than Teacher and Uncle Master Tianqin. True Master Guotianshan waved his hand and said, "You don't understand. Not to mention the fact that both of them have formed 8th grade golden elixirs. Even if both of them had formed 7th grade golden elixirs like me, I would still not be a match for either of them. Both of them are geniuses among the second-generation disciples, second only to senior brother Tianlin. Not only did they have their own opportunities, but they are also extremely hardworking. People like Uncle Master can't compare to people like them. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.